This was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned that's real and unreal.
Back in 2014, I began work on a 10-part documentary series on the subject of Bigfoot. It took me places I did not expect to go, and it gave me a perspective I did not expect to have. Well, it's been 10 years, and a lot of questions still remain. Join me and help me to answer the litany of questions hanging over the phenomenon known as Bigfoot.
Walking up, I could see that there was something there. As I got closer, it stood up.
I know there's something there. I'm a lot more leery when I go out. I mean, really leery.
And I seen this humongous arm reach right in.
One of the dogs got killed, twisted, and torn in two.
What the heck have I heard when I've been out in the wilderness on so many different occasions? When I want answers, I go after them. My new documentary film, The Question of Bigfoot, will attempt to answer all of the skeptics' burning questions. Why don't we see one on a trail cam? Where are the bones? Have they ever been hit by a car? Why haven't we captured one? Is there enough room out there in the wilderness for them to exist? Are they real or are they not? I can't do this without you. So take a look at all of the rewards within this Kickstarter campaign and help me to produce The Question of Bigfoot.
Oh boy. Well, everything's gone. The apple's gone. Power bars are gone. Let's check the camera out. All right. Everything's gone. Okay. Let's see how many clips we've got here. 9 clips. Huh. All right, so there's 9 clips on this camera. And this time the apples were taken. The camera did not fall over. When I get below, we'll find out who the culprit is.
This is British Columbia, a stunning landscape in Western Canada. Since the first days of exploration, the stories of a big, hairy ape living here have endured. They're not considered a myth by the local residents. Lots of jokes can be made about the Loch Ness Monster, unicorns, and even Ogopogo, but no one ever jokes about their encounter with a Bigfoot. So why do I seek answers about Sasquatch? Why not just stick to surviving? I have no claim of seeing anything. So why research a myth? Well, all myths are rooted in some kind of meaning.
I'm not a Bigfoot researcher. I'm not even really a Sasquatch enthusiast. I'm just an outdoor adventurer, a survival instructor, and I've had my own experiences that have left me with questions. And I want to try and get the answers to those questions. But along the way, I've been asked a lot of questions now. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why don't you have cameras up on the apples? Why don't you have other cameras buried? Why don't you use this scent or that? All right, well, that's what I'm doing. It's going for broke. It's, as I call it, the shotgun approach. Let's put everything out there and see what we get.
The skeptics and the advocates alike must be willing to look at whatever evidence exists without blinders on. They must be willing to accept, if found to be indisputable, certain pieces of evidence as fact. Of course, it's just what those facts are that matter. So ruling out human hoaxing and wildlife is imperative. The problem for Bigfoot advocates is that there is yet to be indisputable evidence. There is yet to be found a smoking gun. The problem for the skeptic is that the eyewitness accounts are increasing every year. It's going to take forensic study to uncover the truth.
What I really want to try this time is sort of going for broke. And so I'm going to start by putting a camera right in here and have it pointing out. All right, let's get started. That's really nothing but a lens. It doesn't make any sound, that's the beauty of it, but it also doesn't record anything. It's got to be tethered to a recording unit, and I've got to bury that because it makes sound.
Eliminating all sounds and lights on hidden cameras will go a long way towards achieving a successful stealth approach.
Okay, so this is real simple. It's set on motion detect, so it will not record unless something moves in front of it. And it can record at night in the dark. It'll switch to infrared light on its own because it's got little sensors. What I want to do is just bury this whole thing. So I've got the plastic container, and hopefully if it has a light or it makes a sound, well, that won't be seen by anything. That's the point. And I'll leave that little lens up there in the stump pointing this way. The idea being that a Sasquatch comes from the outer bush because he smells all the stuff going on down there with everything that we're setting up and walks right past his camera. It's a long shot, but it's worth it. Now, let's stir it up a little bit here, and I've got to put something odd, something different, unique that wouldn't normally be up there. So I have pure beaver castor scent. This stuff stinks. I'm gonna put it in front of my first camera. Let's put the scent just right here on this log. Oh. Ooh. Yeah, it's pungent. Okay. Let's put a little bit of this stuff here.
Anything living here will be used to the smells, so the idea is to change things up a bit and promote some curiosity.
Ugh. Got it all over my fingers. Ugh. All right. So that should stink up the place a bit. Let's see if it gets any reaction for me.
Bigfoot filmmaker Doug Hychik and I discussed this confuse and conquer idea, where I'll set up nearly 30 different stations, including pheromone chips, audio recorders, various cameras, food as bait, DNA collection traps. But will all of this be enough to capture an image of something reported to be the most elusive being on the planet?
So here's the thought. Pheromone chip as some sort of strange and crazy attractant. The apple as a kind of offering or bait. Musical instrument just because, you never know. Maybe someone will play with it, who knows? I have no idea. Down below, I've got the audio recorder buried in the ground. And then one step below that, I've got a DNA trap. This is really about confusion here. One thing I've avoided here is using an IR camera, a camera with an infrared light. So there's no constant beam or anything like that. And I don't know, will the apple actually bring something in? Will the pheromone chip drive something crazy? When it gets here, whatever it might be it deer or elk or bear, will it knock the musical instruments? I don't know, but I've got a recording device catching whatever sound is going to happen here, but no camera. However, I've got a DNA trap just set below here, so if anything is going to happen to step on that area, I'll get some DNA.
But what's it going to take to convince anyone? DNA from an unknown primate species has already been gathered in Washington state. and largely ignored.
Yeah, this will work perfect.
Perhaps a combination of gathered evidence can be scrutinized scientifically.
So for this station, I've done quite a number of things. Got the apple, pheromone chip, and this time I've set up a camera. Hopefully, if something does get excited over either the apple or the pheromone chip, the camera will catch it this time.
There's an absence of proven, consistent methods, so I'm setting each station up a little different from the last. A camera here, an audio recorder there, with bait, without bait. Something's got to work.
Each time, what I really want to do is just get a little bit closer to something authentic, something that just might work. At the very least, if it brings in a wolf or a fox or a grizzly, then I know it's working. And this is one of those times where I'm taking the next step. Let's see how he likes this little guy. Perfect. Call that my grouse cam. Look at this guy here. Now, I've still got to bury the recorder.
If it is just an ape, albeit an intelligent one, then sooner or later we should be able to outwit it. Unless, of course, it's smarter than us.
All right, so the significance of this particular setup is that I've got the grouse up there with a camera set, all ready to go. The wire runs all the way down the hill, and the recorder's down there. But look at this. See that? Behind me? That was one of the first Sasquatch structures that I was ever shown. So I basically just violated their main area. Let's see how they like that. Maybe they'll take it all out on the grouse.
It's vital for me to gather all the evidence in the area that I can, even if I think I already know what it is or isn't. And casting tracks is a big part of Sasquatch researchers' methodology.
All this is here is hairspray. Helps to lock things in place there.
Hydrocal is an inexpensive and easy substance to work with for casting tracks.
Leave that for a few hours and we're good to go.
But are they Sasquatch tracks? It's too easy to make mistakes, and even easier to make wishful assumptions.
Just washing off these casted bear tracks to get a better look at them. They really are massive. That's huge. There's my hand. That's a grizzly bear track. Now this one here is the one that's really important to me. Now look at that. Now doesn't that look like a Bigfoot track? The reason being is that what has happened here is the bear walks in his own tracks, and it can create a bit of an optical illusion and look like a Bigfoot track. You see, here's where he stepped once, but then he followed it by stepping again here. Put them all together, and look at that. Now, doesn't that look like a Bigfoot track? And that's one way that people can be fooled by tracks when they see them. And they say, no, it was huge. It was, you know, what's that, 14, 15 inches long. And it ends up looking like that. 1, 2, 3.
It's part of my job to push the Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers out of their own comfort zones. For years, most of them have sat on what they believe and claim to be real evidence and proof of the existence of Bigfoot. And though I enter their areas of research with respect for their methods, I bring with me my own set of challenges to their notions. Todd Standing, considered to be one of the most controversial researchers in the field of study, has no issue with accepting any challenge I throw at him, including returning to places of terror.
Todd and I are just heading out into the bush here to spend some time in an area that Todd is no stranger to. It's a spot where he had one of his most significant and horrifying experiences, heading out to the rock where he was surrounded by Sasquatch, and all he had really was a little camera and some flares. And he hasn't been back there since. And that was right here by this rock. And since that night, Todd has not ever returned to this rock at night. This is it. This is the first time. And we're going to sit it out here for a number of hours and just see what happens. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a full moon.
At the time of Todd's encounter, he had an older version camera with a weak nightlight, and the flare that was short-lived. This time, I don't want to make the same mistake.
Now, if only Todd could have had a light like I do, it would have made a big difference for him. This infrared light that you're watching me with right now is just the onboard infrared with the camera. If I turn on the extra one, this is the mid-level, it's really bright, but look how far. All of a sudden you can see behind me, there's Todd. You can see up in the bush. Now, if we bring into it this massive infrared light, and let me show you how this looks. Here you are with the regular camera light. Here it is with the mid-level. And here it is with the spotlight. What a difference it would have made.
It's important to understand that only the camera can see this imagery. To the human eye, it's still pitch black.
Now, it's argued in some circles that certain creatures, potentially the Sasquatch, can see the infrared lights. I mean, I can see these red lights right now that are making this. Todd doesn't agree with that. He just feels that when they're off in the distance and you're shooting that infrared light, they cannot see it. And so the potential is there to get one caught on film, because just like any biological being, they're out in the dark, they have their night vision, but infrared is something different altogether. Even though recently it's been proved that caribou can see ultraviolet light, but that's the other end of the spectrum. That's a different thing altogether. So we're going to sit here for a few hours. I guess in some ways, hope we don't get the same reaction Todd got those years ago. Maybe something a little more gentle.
You hear that? No?
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I knew something was thrown at us. And that's what got me out, was not just the growl, but the throwing of...
Something, sounds like something was thrown.
Yeah.
Something small, nothing big. There's another one.
Yeah, I heard that too. Definitely, that something was thrown.
Huh.
This is exactly how it started with me.
The wind is still. Nothing's moving. If something big made a sound, we would hear it. If something small made a sound, we might miss it. We gave a hoop before we came in, given one hoop here. It could be stuff just falling off the trees, but already we've heard two little things up in behind me, this side of me. Sound like little things being thrown. Just gonna sit it out here in the dark and see what happens.
The nearby rapids drown out much of the sounds this night. Was something small physically tossed in our direction? Or did a little toad jump on a dry leaf? Assumptions can be dangerously misleading. few small things, perhaps twigs, fell from the trees close to where Todd and I waited in the bush last night. But that was all. However, I'm frustrated by Todd's reaction to the same event, or non-event, depending on how you look at it. His quote the next morning was that they threw rocks at us. To me, this is a gross misrepresentation of the reality. Normally, I'd shoot Todd or any other researcher down when I sense that bit of overzealousness, but I let this one go and proceeded to head up to the top of the mountain by helicopter, spend the night in what Todd considers to be his greatest spot of Sasquatch action. The true ruggedness of the mountains are winning the day. We can't find a single spot to land the helicopter, so we have to move to Plan B and climb. The crew follows me for a short distance before I choose to take a different route up the mountain than Todd's, so that my experience of being alone in what is claimed to be prolific Bigfoot territory may be enhanced.
Guess I better bring you with me. There is no traveling fast in the wilderness, especially straight uphill. The best thing is to think like an animal, move slow, just lumber along, break often, keep a nice, even, slow pace. And that way, if you do need to get out of something fast later, you don't have to rely just on adrenaline. You can have adrenaline and some reserve strength. So I'm gonna go up this mountain a little bit at a time. Wow. It's gonna be a long day.
Advocates of Bigfoot simply point to a print in the ground and demand an answer, and that's reasonable. Skeptics say, show me the body, and that's also reasonable. Whatever it is, it's a fact. What it's a fact of is the unknown, and even in the name of science, we should at least be seeking an answer for it, and that'll take effort, including climbing mountains. Farther below, my cameras remain on and hidden, and who knows what image they'll capture. Whatever it is, it'll be evidence pointing to one conclusion or another. I'm prepared to spend a couple of nights on the top of this mountain, including one alone, as an attempt to peek over to one side of the skeptical fence I normally sit upon.
Well, I made it all the way to the top, to where we were last year. There's the fire pit. In terms of pure survival, if I wanted to be sort of an elusive, secretive species existing up here, and let's say I caught salmon and caught elk and ate elk, deer, small mammals, picked a lot of roots, ate pine needles and grasses and sedges and berries, this is the place to do it. No matter how much I lament the loss of prime, beautiful, and pristine habitat, and I do. The fact is, there's also a lot of incredibly beautiful places and vast reaching areas where anything could survive. And this is one of those places.
You can't sit on the couch. Only boots on the ground will make you realize just how big, beautiful, and vast the North American forests truly are.
Up there is where Todd calls the Forbidden Zone, the area where he refused to go. Down here is his spot, up there is their spot, is what he said. But he's agreed with me that this year we can push the envelope and push into that territory. So I'm not gonna wait for him. I'll take a little hike up there now.
A year ago, I went easy on Todd and his claims of Bigfoot activity. This time, I'm pushing the envelope. I'm at the top of a mountain in British Columbia, where a year earlier I heard something banging rocks together, only feet from where I slept.
Okay, so I just heard the strangest sound. It was like someone taking a couple of rocks and just banging them together really fast. And then just like a sound of something substantial just in the bush. And we're talking about maybe 20 feet away from me. But either way, what I just heard was loud, distinct. I don't know what time it is, but it's pre-dawn. And I'm just gonna lie here and see what else happens.
That was a year ago. This time, Todd will join me up here for a night, and tomorrow night, I'll stay alone.
So, here's the barrier. So he doesn't go past this log. Gotta cross the street sooner or later.
This is the higher ground on the mountain that Todd had reserved for what he believes is a group of Sasquatch. He has refused to go here for fear of getting them angry or scaring them off. So my act, he believes, would be an act of defiance to them by crossing the arbitrary barrier he himself established. This time Todd is good with my methods. He said try anything. After all, he spent many years trying to convince the public of what he knows to be real, and it's not working. Todd finally arrived about 40 minutes behind me, and we proceeded to look at his new methods to try to catch DNA evidence of a species known as Gigantopithecus. It's fairly ingenious, too, using natural burrs glued to branches to catch hair for DNA testing.
All it takes is one. Oh, those are hairs, dude. There's still one in there. Look at that. Those are definitely hairs. Yeah, I can see it. Short. Very short. But
The collecting of DNA remains as one of the most controversial aspects of the phenomenon known as Sasquatch. On several occasions, DNA has been gathered and claimed by official university labs to be some kind of human-ape hybrid. Later, Todd would test this small bit of hair, and it turns out to be 95% human DNA, 5% unknown.
Actually, I brought up a couple of the infrared trail cams, so I'm gonna set them up.
Todd is feeling frustrated with the rest of the world's progress in accepting the existence of what he believes is Gigantopithecus, a bipedal ape. And so for the first time, he's allowing me to put out cameras and audio devices in an effort to collect evidence. These are combined with his usual methods of putting apples on a tree as gifts to entice something. The apples are stuck well onto the tree at about 15 and 7-foot reaches, with the hopes of ruling out sheep or bears unwilling to climb. With the bait firmly in place, we'll wait out the night, about 100 yards higher on the mountain. With stories ranging from friendship to even fatal abductions, all pointing to Bigfoot, it's only my strong sense of skepticism and my comfort level in the wilderness that enables me to be out here at all. Most of what I expect to happen is nothing. Even that is an answer. What's becoming more and more difficult for me, as time and the research carries on, is determining exactly what answer it is I'm looking for.
All right, so I've got a couple of things set up for the night, just really it's all in preparation of potential interaction with something that a lot of people claim is called Sasquatch, Bigfoot. I've actually packed my stuff, my GPS satellite locator, I've got my knife and bear bangers and things like that, and my boots are in my sleeping bag. And that harkens back to a story I heard of a trapper that was actually picked up, sleeping bag and all, and carried off and kidnapped by a family of Sasquatch. This happened in 1924, but he didn't tell his story really in full till many years later, and he even swore the story before a judge as having been true. He was kidnapped and held for a couple of days in a cave with a family of Sasquatch. But because there had been activity happening a couple of nights before that, that's what he did. He had stuff with him inside his bag, and he had also, actually his backpack got picked up too. So the Sasquatch picked up him and his backpack and carried him for 2 or 3 hours off into the wilderness. So that happens to me. I got all my stuff with me.
Last night was uneventful, so my first order of the day is to head 100 yards down the mountain and see if anything took the apples that we stuck on the tree.
Can't be. I have to see this with my own eyes. Well, let me show you the disappointing part first. I'm left with only one of 2 alternatives. Either Todd is indeed a masterful, skillful hoaxer, or something came in and took these apples, pushed over the camera, went up about 15 feet in the tree, and took all the apples. I don't know what to think anymore. And I've got to spin my net out here alone.
The camera's knocked over. If they didn't pick up that camera before they took these apples, there's no way they picked up that camera first. I think we did. I think we got Sasquatch footage on there.
I don't know.
I do. I feel it.
Now, I'm nervous. Todd is clearly excited. This is a man who's had to put up with a lot of controversy over the years, a lot of claims of hoaxing and fraud. And I've had a lot of people say, look, he's frauding you, he's hoaxing you. The hope, and I suppose Todd's dream, is that camera got shots before it fell over. Honestly, this is the most significant experience I've had, because the plausibility of Todd going down there and doing that is pretty low, to be honest with you. So, Todd will leave not too long from now. We'll get another apple up on that tree, put out some power bars, and then I'm here for the night alone. And we'll see what happens. I'll certainly be keeping my eyes and ears open. I don't think tonight's gonna be a night I'm gonna sleep a lot.
The camera images proved nothing either way. It was likely knocked over by this little culprit, a pika, a kind of rodent. But knowing this doesn't answer the question of what took the apples 15 feet up the tree. After helping me put apples and chocolate bars back up in the tree, Todd will leave me alone on the mountaintop, which at the very least will rule out any chance of him hoaxing me if something happens tonight.
When we first came on the site here, I made it here long before Todd did. And I found these depressions in the ground that are pretty hard to explain, other than potentially grizzly bear, I think, but a very big grizzly bear at that. This track stood out. You can see the indentations in the ground here are very heavy. Now, it's potential that it was simply a rock that was here, and the rock eventually came out of the ground. This is a heavy, heavy stamp in the ground. And, you know, maybe this is now where suggestion can be very powerful, but I can see the toe prints. And Todd came later and saw it, and he thought, of course, knowing Todd, he absolutely said, it's a Bigfoot print. And that's the danger of being so absorbed in the subject matter. On the other hand, that's the benefit of being so absorbed in the subject matter. If you go out looking for grizzly, you'll find grizzly. If you go out looking for elk, you'll find elk. If you go out looking for Sasquatch,
I'm only looking for answers. Ironically, the greatest argument is not between the skeptics and the believers. It's among the Bigfoot advocates themselves. No one can agree on what it is that we are all trying to find. Here in Radium Springs, British Columbia, Todd Standing believes they are the long-hidden offspring of a species of humanoid called Gigantopithecus. He may be right. And even though his own evidence is considered dubious and fake by many people, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because whether Todd is telling the truth or not, the fact remains, there are thousands of other people making the very same claim.
You have to be of two minds out here. The job at hand, what is that? Filmmaker, documentarian. But I'm also a survival instructor. And I know how dangerous it is out here, and how one wrong step, one missed beat, could leave me in a very precarious situation. Just as it is when I'm out doing pure survival and I'm not on the hunt for Bigfoot. I've got to take real care. Make every step count. Monitor my food. I don't know if I'm going to even make it down off this mountain, so I've got to hold on to the food that I've got. It's very little, just be careful with it. Same thing for the water. Most importantly, I've got to stay warm at night. If nothing happens out here tonight, that's what I'll say tomorrow morning. Nothing happened. I thought I was going to be saying that this morning. I truly thought I'd go down, see all those apples on the tree and go, well, you know, Todd claims there's a couple of wood knocks. Sure, whatever. But instead I went down and all those apples were gone. I can't explain that. Maybe a bird, but I haven't seen any ravens or any of the sort come around at all. Anything that has been here has been little songbirds and one gray jay. It's not going to carry off those 3 apples. So what did?
What took the apples last night? What banged rocks together here last year? What has left suspicious-looking tracks in hard-packed ground? Maybe tonight. I'll find out.
This is about halfway between where I am, where the apples are. What I've done is I've picked a sort of place of cover here and put up my second camera. It should be filming me right now. For now, I've changed the card in the camera that was on the apples, put up the apple, 2 power bars, moved the camera a bit so it's secure now and it won't fall over. Put a camera in here, both are running now. I'll come down later tonight, do a couple of hoops, maybe a wood knock, and I'll leave my audio recorder somewhere around here as well, just buried and hidden for sound. And then I gotta sit through the night on the top of this mountain.
I'm here to get the right bit of footage that might blow the lid off of this phenomenon. Or, by my persistent search and coming up with nothing, proving more that there is nothing out here in the first place.
All right, apple's still in its place. Camera's set up, hopefully will work. Audio recorder's in, turned on. Go back up and tend my fire.
In this way, being alone at the top of the mountain, I become the bait.
The whole idea about the fire is simple. Apparently, the Sasquatch feel more comfortable because they can see you, and you can't really see them. So a lot of times, nice big fire is when activity happens. People say, oh, something came around, it was standing on the edge in the darkness, and it came in close or whatever, and the fire seems to do the trick. I'm staying outside tonight just because I want to. I want to have a good clear view, but in other locations, I'll stay inside a tent and see how that works.
As my night continues, things get weird. I see large, strange lights over a distant mountain hovering in the sky. If it was a jet, it would have been 5 times bigger than the Concorde. 4 massive lights sat still and unmoving. By the time I set up my camera, they were gone. I shrugged it off and tried to get some sleep.
Oh man, I just had the most insane dream. I fell asleep.
and fire got cold, and I dreamt that a Sasquatch came and was sitting on top of me and not letting me get up. And it became super vivid just for that moment, you know, in between dream and awake, where you think it's real. I lit a big fire.
We've all had vivid dreams, but this went beyond that. It felt like a big set of buttocks holding me down, while my head was completely engulfed inside the mummy sleeping bag. I struggled to get my upper arm free and to pull my head out from the bag, at this point wide awake and still feeling trapped. And the second I did get my face out of the bag, the feeling disappeared. Perhaps just a coincidental dream. I can't dispute that. But it sure didn't feel like one. The next morning, things get even stranger.
Oh boy. Well, everything's gone. The apple's gone. Power bars are gone. All right, well, I'm gonna turn around and look at the camera. I hope it's still upright. And it is. Let's check the camera out. All right. Everything's gone. Okay. Let's see how many clips we've got here. 9 clips. Huh. All right, so there's 9 clips on this camera. And this time the apples were taken. The camera did not fall over. When I get below, we'll find out who the culprit is.
So let's establish the efficiency of the trail cams. They're motion triggered, with about a half-second delay, but they're very sensitive. Here are a series of shots from the base of the mountain, where they were set off by something quickly going through the field of vision. Even dust particles will trigger it to record. Now, for some reason, with nothing showing as having just run through the screen, here is a recorded image of the apple in its place throughout the night. In this first clip, I've highlighted the apple with a light circle. Now, did you see that? The apple was well stuck on a branch, pointing up and away from the ground, so gravitational pull shouldn't have pulled it off. But in the second clip, it just disappears. It just vanishes, along with 3 chocolate bars I'd put on the other branches, and nothing was caught on film. Let's look at the 2 clips again in real time. There's nothing to indicate what set off the camera into recording. Now there. Do you see that at the bottom? What was that? Let's watch it again in real time once more, and this time watch the branches on the middle tree, then the bottom left of the screen. Now here it is blown up in real time. And here it is in slow motion. Now let's freeze frame on the culprit. What is that? Whatever it is, it has to be big enough to make a large tree shake. But here's the real rub. That spot where you see it pop up is at least 6 feet high off the ground. The skeptic would say the apple somehow simply fell off its perch, even though it was well stuck onto a branch. And it triggered the camera, but fell out of view. Once on the ground, something came and took every last piece of it. The missing chocolate bars, well, we'll have to ignore that for now. The creature at the bottom left of the screen was either a sheep on its hind legs, the top of a grizzly bear who has no ears, and left me alone just 100 yards away while I slept. My dream of being sat on was just a coincidental dream. The lights in the sky, a very large jet. The advocates would say it's Bigfoot. These are the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. The phenomenon we call Bigfoot is far from being relegated only to the West Coast mountains. Some of the most bizarre and intriguing encounters happen from Quebec all the way down through to Florida. And the stories here begin to stretch the boundary of what this phenomenon might actually be.
So many theories on the phenomenon we call Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Is it a great ape? Is it part ape, part human? Is it a Neanderthal? Is it an alien? It just gets crazy after a while. And every Bigfoot advocate seems to have a different approach to what they think it is. What I'm doing is saying, take me to your hotspots. Put me in there where you go. Let me check it out. Let me help you get to the bottom of what's going on here. And right now, I'm in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And I have a feeling this could get weird.
This is Scott Carpenter. Fortunately, a level-headed individual who, like so many others, is just out there trying to find explanations for actual experiences he's had. And since I myself refuse to be the poster boy for any one perspective, I'm here with him, with my eyes and my ears open to whatever may reveal itself in my search for truth to an elusive phenomenon. Be it ape or alien, something's going on out here.
And right down in this holler is where, yada, yada, yada. I need to play, but they started hollering at each other.
You were standing right here?
We're standing right here.
What time of night?
It was in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock.
Where was it?
They were down in there somewhere. We never could see them.
Right.
They were yelling and screaming at us. And then as it kept going on, it's like, you know, you could tell that there were syllables being made. That's one of the ones that Scott Nelson went over and he broke it down phonetically.
Okay.
He said there's syllables being spoken. See, we thought it was just one. And when he came back to us, he says, no, it's two individuals. And he said, his opinion was, he told me that they were arguing with each other, not us.
Right here?
Right here. In other words, they saw us something, you know, made them upset. And, you know, whether they were arguing over a course of action or something, they were arguing, but they didn't care that we heard it. See where the tree has fallen and crushed it in? That's where I was.
In the bushes, caught here on Scott's backwards-facing camera, is what he claims to be a face. Of what? No one knows. And Scott is the first one to bring up the term pareidoia, the human phenomenon of seeing a face in everything, an attribute we have that scientists believe originates from our instinct to protect ourselves from predators. Scott will often diagram over his photos to assist the viewer in spotting the face. I refuse to do that, as I believe it just adds to the power of suggestion too much. He has dozens of images like this one, but you can decide for yourself.
The one that lit the camera was down there.
In this footage taken from Scott's trail cam, you can clearly see that something is messing with the camera. The perplexing image does not seem entirely like it's a bear, although there are many black bears in this area. And Scott is convinced that whatever it was, it licked the camera and then finally abandoned it. Scott comes by his interest honestly. He has simply heard things and seen things he can't explain through known wildlife biology, and he's not afraid to go out into the woods to find answers. He puts up as many trail cams as he can, and the only reaction I have to this footage is that I agree it seems a little odd to be considered a bear. But it's no smoking gun as far as evidence of Bigfoot is concerned.
I left these rocks evenly spaced. Mm-hmm. last time I was here. This is the kind of stuff we do.
Okay, so you're saying last time you were here, show me how you have them. Like that, okay. And that was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm back with you, and they're over like that.
Yeah.
Just move, just like a little gentle movement.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this again? Does that make sense?
Yeah. See if I move them back. Even add one. We can find another one to add one.
Well, here, let's do this.
When Scott and other researchers put out rock formations or colored beads, more gift-like material rather than food, they begin to rule out most, if not all, animals. There aren't a lot of bears that'll come along and simply rearrange a little line of stones, especially consistently, and even rearrange the design. Scott seems to have his most success with this method. Of course, this does not rule out human hoaxing, but you gotta be out here to get it. Most of these researchers do this kind of experimentation well off the beaten path, where no humans go. Scott has brought a spirituality theory into it that I have never encountered before.
You see my electrician's tape? I had that in the form of a cross.
Show me how you had it set up.
This is how it was supposed to have been originally. Can't get it in there. You know. Did you hear that?
I heard that. I was just gonna say, did you hear that?
That was a whoop.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what do you do in a situation like this? Do you whoop back? Do you just let it be?
Let them be.
Yeah. Right.
Now, the crows have been doing their thing, but that whoop was a whoop. That's how I had it when I left here 3 weeks ago. There's some theories going around because of the abilities of the Bigfoot. You get into the supernatural side of it, the ability to, a lot of people think they can mind read, they can cloak or disappear or cause you not to see them, that sort of thing. Actually, these abilities were mimicking angelic type abilities, from the Bible. So there's a theory out there that they could be Nephilim, and that basically in Genesis 6 it talks about how the fallen angels mated with human women and created a hybrid, and those were called Nephilim. And they were giants and large, and so that's how that's where the theory got started. And, you carry that forward through history, and they ended up, here in the Americas, and that's what the Bigfoot could be, a descendant of the Nephilim.
Sasquatch in the Bible? This was something I've never even considered. Yet look at the first 2 lines. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also after that.
So what you've got here is a situation where Scott has left certain markings. No real rhyme or reason, just because. Let's just see. Rocks on a log, but they're spaced evenly. And he was here 3 weeks ago. We come back, and one of the rocks, or 2 of the rocks, are moved, in a different pattern. But he also put this cross up in the tree. And specifically, he's researching all the different aspects of the possibilities here, including biblical aspects and so on, paranormal, spiritual, what have you. And here we've got, he's put this cross in the tree, using electrical tape, looking like a traditional cross. We come in here now, 3 weeks later, not only is it taken apart, but both branches are turned upside down and shoved into the stump. So that's creepy. That's the only reaction I have to that is, that's creepy.
After a few hikes with Scott Carpenter in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, I've opted to head out into the trails on my own to see what I can stir up. Things happen when I make myself the bait.
I did hear the knocks back there and different things. Could they have easily been an owl or a bird or, woodpeckers? Absolutely, they could have been. No question about it. The first one was very suspect. The whoop, the whoop that I heard, that was suspect. That was a strange little one-off whoop to hear in the middle of the day like that and not hear any others. Well, that's not a bad little shelter. This would be the spot I'd make my shelter if I had to stay the night without a tent. Definitely protected from the rain.
This is all damp, but you get enough material, put it on the ground, and you got a ready-made shelter right here, ready to go. And when it comes to survival in an area like this, well, it's the same thing I find everywhere I go. I mean, survival is ultimately quite possible. There's a lot of large black bears in this area, so and the bottom line is wherever there are bear, there's enough food for a large bipedal, ape-like, hairy man creature to exist. That doesn't mean they exist, though. It just means they could.
So, in my opinion, in the research thus far, let's get that question out of the way. Could a creature such as Sasquatch exist in North America? Yeah, it could. But that just doesn't mean that it does.
All right, so I've let Scott head off without me. And I'm gonna spend about 15, 20 minutes just up here alone. Let the dark come in a bit more than it is. And so I can be a single, solitary person up here, alone, and do my hike out on my own. See if that makes any difference at all. Lots of sounds in the forest. There's always lots of sounds.
Sasquatch's persistence in our culture is a testament to its value. A myth, after all, tends to reflect some fundamental truth about the world we live in.
Now, there's another element to Scott's research in this. He's even looking at things biblically. And that's where things get pretty interesting, apparently, in Genesis 6, to do with the Nephilim. So that's something I had never even considered. You know, walking from biological being, you know, just a great ape, to, you know, ape human being like a Neanderthal or some sort of hominid like that, to, you know, sort of a spiritual being that do all these interesting things, cloaking into the woods and psychic power and so on, infrasound to disable you, just like apparently lions can do. And then, you know, carrying on into aliens. I mean, this area, many areas are well associated with the seeing of orbs, strange lights. Well, you know, that's not my thing. That's not what I'm not going to get into that. Even in my own circumstances with some strange happenings that I've experienced that are associated with me trying to be in Bigfoot territory. You know, the feeling of being sat upon and things disappearing, but that were covered by stealth cams, and then they disappear on the stealth cam with nothing coming into frame. It's just bizarre, you know, it really just gets strange. But lastly, I had not considered the possibility of a biblical connection. That's really going to take some thinking on my part. And that just makes it even freakier. And that's the interesting thing. And this is what I've heard from people too, is the more you get into this research of Sasquatch, it just gets weirder. It doesn't get easier and plainer and more obvious and more simple. It's all about, you know, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? This is not really fun stuff to talk about while I'm walking in through the middle of the forest here completely alone.
When you're alone in the woods and you hear a scary sound and the hair stands up on the back of your neck.
You can stop for a second.
It may be more comforting to believe in something truly frightening, rather than a twig falling off a tree and making you jump.
And now I just heard something break its branch.
Do we believe in scary monsters because it makes life on this planet more exciting?
Now I'm feeling creeped out. Well, I got that feeling. A little spine-tingling, creepy feeling. Might have something to do with walking in the dark and too many horror movies. I don't have the creepy feeling anymore. It's gone. Now, this is the interesting thing. When I get that creepy feeling, I get it, but it dissipates. It's there for a while, and then it's gone. And it feels, and I know feelings aren't facts, but it feels like something was there, and it left. It's like the energy feels like it's leaving. going away. And that's all I'm reacting to. And that's all I'm telling you. I'm not suggesting that there is something there. I'm trying not to suggest that. I'm suggesting that, or I'm saying that I'm having a feeling. But what have I got other than feelings and some words to tell you about them, and that's it. Nothing else. So, in the end, every skeptic has complete right to say, you got nothing. And they'd be right. I keep coming out here, walking in the dark, and going into the creepy zones where people say weird stuff happens, and camping out on lakes where nobody else will go camp, until something happens.
Alone in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, searching for an elusive creature, I have to look for its dwellings. Does it live in caves? Does it sleep out on grassy fields? To get answers to these questions is to get closer to finding whatever it is you're looking for. It's a process of elimination, separating the animal science from whatever else is out there.
So the area that I'm walking right now, humans don't go, people don't go here. It's off trail. Again, good tracking is the art of looking for the abnormal in amongst the normal. A tree break is not such a special thing if there's thousands of them and they're all in random order all over the place. Something quite different if there's only a dozen and they're all lined up and pointing in the same direction. Well, what breaks that off like that for no reason, it would seem? There's no reason for that to be broken off. So that's abnormal. That's what I mean by when you're tracking. You get this tree here, and that's solid. Like, that is very much alive, and there's nothing around here to break it off like that. Curious and curiouser. Just for a brief moment there, I thought something was throwing pebbles at me. Acorns falling off the tree. That's all it is. Just like that. Power of suggestion gets in there every time. And it's always the first one to speak up. And there's lots of small tracks here, probably attributed to deer, hog, bear. Some serious bear poop. It's a big bear. I've got that what's up around the corner syndrome right now. Kind of thing that keeps you moving on when you probably shouldn't. I'm inflicted with it often, to be honest with you. Whoa. That's a serious cave for getting out of the storm. That's a cave worthy of Survivorman. Nice cave, no action though. At least no recent action.
Scary monsters, biblical giants, bipedal apes, relic hominids. What people believe tells us more about them than it does about what they believe in. I wonder sometimes, would I even know a myth if it jumped out from the bushes in front of me? And can I trust my own senses?
On a psychological level, you have to determine, do you start feeling those feelings of spine tingling and hair on the back of your neck because there's something real, it's really affecting you? I mean, we know that feeling. You see, it feels like somebody's looking at me, and then you turn and you see, oh, someone is sitting in the cafeteria and they are staring at me. It's that feeling, right? It's the exact same feeling. You have to determine, ooh, I should shut up. I just heard a whoop.
Real or mythical, natural or unnatural. Interestingly, native cultures don't even make the distinction. As I sit out alone, night after night, I suspend judgment on the extreme lines of thought. And watch the eternal struggle from a neutral vantage point. wondering what I'll discover next.
So I'm filming something. I don't know what it is.
Well, I saw something moving with the thermal. That's for sure. A little bat flyby. More tree noise over there. No, it's an owl. Woo! There are those who would say it's Bigfoot whooping. Let him know I'm heading home. It's funny. You put the headlamp on and look to the forest and it instantly looks creepier. Oh. Okay. I do see a creature. And it's a big, scary one. Fortunately, he's gonna let me go. That was a close one. Did you see how mean those eyes were? Creatures like that out here. I better get my way back to civilization real quick.
What I was really doing was creating humor, so I wouldn't be nervous. Here in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, I'm searching for signs or interactions with the phenomenon we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot. And I can leave no stone unturned, lest I be criticized for lack of effort.
All right, so here's the deal. Come back into this point of land just outside of Smoky Mountains Park. And this is an area that Scott Carpenter feels is an extreme hotspot for them. He's had a number of incidents here that he claims were definitely Bigfoot. He does gifting here where they take his apples. He's found tracks here, heard whoops here, heard stick breaking, all that sort of stuff.
Certain native cultures say that Bigfoot knows when humans are searching for them, and that they'll choose when and to whom to make an appearance. They say they have psychic powers, and that's what accounts for their ability to elude the white man's efforts to capture or hunt them down or film them. In Indian culture, the entire natural world, the animals, the plants, the rivers, the stars, is seen as a big family, and Bigfoot as a brother or grandfather. So maybe, if they exist, they know I'm here, and I'm looking for them. And I prefer to do that alone. And this time, thanks to technology, I'm putting out some extra sets of ears and eyes. With the help of Scott during the day, I'm putting out a number of trail cams. And in this case, I've got a camera, filming a camera, filming a camera in a triangle, with the hopes that if one gets messed with, the other one or two will film the culprit in action. Whenever you claim to be attempting to capture a Bigfoot on film, you're open to criticism if you don't cover all your bases. You're left with the out of saying something was too smart to get caught on film, but the skeptic will claim you didn't try hard enough. In addition, I brought in another old friend, my grouse cam, complete with grouse blood scenting. And I can watch all the action from safe inside my nylon tent, where a powerful 10-foot monster can't touch me. I don't think.
What we're doing here is we're setting up what is essentially kind of like a video fence. I've got one camera behind me, and it's got a fairly wide reach on it.
about 160 degrees. It can see from side to side. It's got about 60 feet in front that it can see. So I'm gonna come down here, and there's another one right there. So there's 1, 2, and I'll go straight down there. I've got a third one. The idea here is to create this video fence line along here with the belief that they know exactly what's on the tree. They can see the IR cameras. They can tell that they're there. I mean, you know, they're obvious. If you know, you're not tricking them at all. What it does is it creates in them sort of a sneak play where, okay, well, we're not going to go that way. They look over here to another side, and they see it's clear there's no cameras, and they just go ahead and stroll down that way. Not unlike the way the Inuit used to use Inukshuks to create a corridor and a way of funneling the caribou down into a spot where they could hunt them. It's the same sort of idea, in creating this sort of Bigfoot corridor, if you will, as set up with technology, with cameras, funneling them to the place where I want them to go to hopefully get a shot of them. On the other hand, if they do come by this way and maybe don't spot the cameras in the trees, then it becomes a win-win situation. As well, you get them then, too.
This area is just yards from a cemetery and within close range of houses and roads, which means if this phenomenon is real, it's not just in the remote wilderness. It's in your backyard and has been for years.
All right, so here we go with the gifting. According to Scott, his Bigfoot that he has habituated here don't like things on the ground. They prefer them to be up high and off the dirt, I guess. And so we put up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just on the inside of these apples is this setup here. A lot of Bigfoot advocates, a lot of Bigfoot enthusiasts will suggest that they will say that they put out gifts that doesn't have to be food all the time. When it's food, you know, you're thinking, okay, raccoons, you know, deer, elk. But what if you put out crystals or rocks or feathers, and you come back and they've been all moved around? That's when things start to get strange. And that's certainly what Scott has been doing. He has been messing with leaving them, you know, nice shaped rocks and things like that. And this formation here, these are actually the original stones that he would put down along with those colored magnets. Now, at times, what would happen is he'd come back later and one would be gone. The other 3 would be over here like this and one like this. Now, the speculation might be, well, maybe they're saying it's 3 of them, 1 of him. But the 3 in 1 combination in Scott Carpenter's research has been repeated many, many times. Every time he leaves something along rocks, stones, any trinkets, they end up being separated into a pile of 3 in 1. If he leaves 9 or 10 stones, the rest are thrown away, 3 in 1 are left. That's very, very strange. And you know that's not going to be a bear or a raccoon doing it. So we're going to leave these stones down here for the night as well and see what happens. Come back in tomorrow morning, and especially if I hear any sounds or anything at all, see if these are changed. I'm telling you, if these things are changed, I'm going to be freaked out.
As night comes in, I'm situated between a cemetery and a lake, somewhere in the Smoky Mountain area of Tennessee. The wind is blowing steady tonight, making it hard to discern and separate the forest sounds from everything else that might make a noise.
I'm on my own. I'm out on the edge of the point. The creepy cemetery areas over there. It's a creepy spot. Gotta wonder sometimes why I do these things.
There's more backstory to this place than just the Sasquatch. Scott has been scared enough that he won't come out here at night alone. The howling night winds lend an eerie ambiance to an otherwise benign stretch of forested land.
All right, I'm gonna do a perimeter check with the thermal camera. If anything, just to make myself feel better. Of course, the thing is about looking through with the thermal cameras, if I see something, it's gonna be freaky as heck. What if I look like this and I see a big red blob standing there? This is one of those things, you don't really want to see anything. You know, you just want to see trees. So the minute I see something large and glowing red with its heat signature,
It's probably the minute I walk out of this forest. Well, no, let me correct that. I run out of this forest. Well, as far as I can tell. Perimeter check done. Temperature's dropping fast. Wind is staying busy. This wind is a big problem for me because it's masking all of the noises and sounds. If something wanted to sneak up on me, it could really easily. If it was still, I'd hear every crack, every little snap, and something would have to be very stealthy to get close. A night like tonight, walk right up to the tent. I might not hear a thing until it's on the tent. So that's not good.
We're obsessed with scary stories of big, hairy monsters in the woods. Our imagination becomes overactive, playing off our fears, and exaggerates them until they grip us and send us running out of the woods in a state of panic. Or is there something real here to fear?
Thought I heard something. Where was I? This particular spot right here, where I am, a family came in here after they'd heard about the work that Scott was doing here. They came here right to this spot, right where I am right here, and they were chased out by what they say was Sasquatches throwing rocks and sticks and clubs at them and chased them. They ran out of this forest when they tried to stay here and research Sasquatch, and they were scared out of their wits. Well, I'm here now. We'll see what happens.
This is not the first time I've placed myself as bait, smack dab in the middle of a place others dare not go. I'm not overly brave, and hopefully not overly foolish. I just want to find out for myself. And being alone should increase the odds.
All right, let's take a look at what I've got set up for surveillance tonight as far as what's going on outside my tent. Now, it's a real interesting twist here because there's an argument about, you know, if you have the cameras up, they know it and they won't go there. Yet if I don't put them up, skeptics will say, why didn't you put up infrared cameras on your tent? So tonight I have 2 cameras set up on the tent. And in a way, it's win-win. Skeptics watch, they know that if something happens, I've got it covered. And if nothing happens, it may be because I have it covered, so it acts sort of like a little bit of a protection device, you know, filming myself. Okay, and there it is. I'm gonna press record. You can see this shot right now. And there's me inside. Making the light go off and on. There we go. That's what that's gonna look like now tonight. It will show me if something's standing outside my tent. All right, next up is the parabolic microphone. Turn it on. It's ready to rock and roll. Have a listen. And if there's anything walking around out there, at least in the direction of the parabolic microphone, I'll hear it. And I'll hear it well. All right, fair enough. So, a little surveillance team here. Got the audio recorder, my 2 cameras showing me the outside world. Last little bit I have is my GPS satellite tracker. And this one is just sort of a little morbid, but it was a suggestion to me is to turn it on, wear it when I sleep, so that if I get abducted, you can follow the progress online. If you're part of my team, and go, oh, there he goes, there he goes, there he goes. Wow, he's really going far. Okay, well, I turned it on.
In the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, just as it is in 1,000 other communities throughout North America, the phenomenon of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, is not a joke. Many don't even question its existence. They just know it's there. And everyone has a friend or a relative who's had an encounter. There's not one story from this area. There are hundreds.
Here we are. Yep, apples are still in the trees. Stones have not been moved. Everything's normal.
One question that has always dogged me is, what do we do with thousands of credible, sane individuals with nothing to gain and much to lose who stand behind their encounter with a Bigfoot? Call them all liars, delusional, or investigate their claims and prove things out, one way or the other?
All right, so the last order of the day is Scott and I are gonna head in and check out the big rocks that we left out on the first day where we heard the whoop and the reestablished cross, and just see if there's any movement at all. Doesn't look very disturbed at all. Cross is there. To be truthful, most of these things take weeks to months to really get something to happen. It's only been a few days, but that's fine. We'll still head in because sometimes it can be immediate. Just gonna watch for tracks all around these 3 cameras that we put up. 1, 2, and 3 should be over here somewhere. Wait a minute. Huh. So right now we're missing a camera down here. You can understand, we're out in the middle of it. This is nowhere near where the public come. And we had cameras set up here. We can see 1, 2.
See the rope.
Oh,
Here's the rope.
let's see, hang on.
Here's the rope there. See the rope mark?
Oh, look at that. And it's definitely, I mean, there's some force. You see the force, I mean, there's been some force to, you know?
Pull it off, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, you know, done that, flipped away some bark here. So we got a camera ripped right off a tree. I mean, I'm excited that it got messed with, but I want it back.
Now we have something, and I have to admit, it's exciting. We have a missing camera. Our guess is a bear, but we won't know unless we find the camera itself. Bears are attracted by the smell of the lithium batteries.
Chips and broken pieces.
Here it is.
Hey.
Okay, I won't touch it.
Okay.
There.
Definitely chewed, definitely gouged.
Looks like teeth marks.
And it does look like teeth marks. Here's the rope.
Finally, over 100 yards away, we spot the camera in the dry leaves.
Awesome. All right, here we go. We got it. You know, it's not very chewed up. It's just where the clip was busted off. Oh, I'm lying. There's a bunch of gouges and chews in there. Yeah, this is gonna, oh, there's the clip missing. This is gonna be bear footage for sure. And 28 clips.
And here are the clips. Something became interested during the day, but then left it alone for a few hours. And returned to it at night to really begin to work at it. Here again is Scott's camera licking footage. It's very difficult to determine what creature actually did this. But for comparison, on the right is my footage. There are striking similarities to the captured image, even similarities to the movement of the creature. We may never have the answer to what licked Scott's trail cam. But there's no mistake about what took mine. The thief finally reveals himself. Mystery solved. On to the next mystery. I've been digging deeper into the phenomenon known as Sasquatch, Bigfoot. I assumed I would spend most of my time in the western mountains, but the legend persists throughout the entire continent. And here, near the Texas-Louisiana border, I find that stories abound amongst those people who truly spend time out on the land.
Right now I'm in East Texas, forested area, private land. I was invited by my host, Jeff Stewart. He's had some strange encounters, including 2 face-to-face sightings. Now, mind you, his experiences stretch over the last 35+ years. Sort of teaming up what I know about the wilderness and survival, combining that with the last number of months going in all sorts of different places with researchers, wilderness enthusiasts, and advocates for a particular subject of study. I've got a good friend of mine, wilderness survival and tracking expert, Alan Beauchamp. I brought him down from Canada because I'm back once again in a hotspot, an area where hopefully the possibility exists that I can elicit an interaction with Bigfoot.
With each new quest, I've acquired more gear. And here in Texas, I finally get a chance to put all the technical ideas into action.
What we have to leave out there is a number of different methods. So we've got 16 hidden cameras, let's call them, because I've got 4 fake birds, and each one of them has a camera in it. Deer urine, fox urine. It's a hollow shot tube, and it's very sharp. On the bottom, we'll have cotton batten, and then black tape holding that cotton batten, and that collects the DNA sample. Talk to me about placement now. Where do we want to start setting all of these things up?
With everything that we're doing, if we cause a mass disturbance by this or a huge scent picture we left on the ground, what I'd like to do laterally, sporadically on the last ring around it, put them in spots where they're up against the side of a tree, where you've got maybe a microenvironment where there's a good breeze and stuff, so the scent is always going to blow by. I think the idea of the no zone, I think that's good. I think that'll work for us. I think we've offered a lot of high tech, a lot of low tech, all the while we're still in the open, with the fire being large.
Okay.
We're right here.
The no zone is my idea, reasoning that if the species is highly intelligent, they may be able to recognize camera equipment, even camouflaged. So give them one small, safe area where there would be no cameras or hidden devices, a free space for anything that's curious about me.
What I've done is I've set a team in motion here. I've worked with Alan Beauchamp to determine what kind of stealth camera gear I want to work with, where I want to put it. The team is out just deploying everything on trees, and water, and bushes all around, so I'm going to be part of that process. The good thing about this zone right here is my campsite is over there, so behind you. And with this trail that runs right underneath me here, right along through here, and the bush in behind, it's a good zone for something to come up. If it wanted to spy on me, this is a great spot for it to come and sneak up on me, be able to see me, but also be able to duck out of the way. So I think the way this is going to work is for me to set a camera up high in this case, shoot down, get a nice wide angle. So hopefully if something comes from in behind, lands in here, wants to get a look at me, camera will trigger and I'll get a shot of it, night or day.
I'm putting out dozens of hidden cameras, DNA traps, and audio recorders.
I'm right on the trail here, scuff this up a bit, and bury the DNA trap. If something were to come along here and step on this, if it was large, they probably wouldn't even feel it. If there's some blood or sweat, it'll go into the cotton as well. It's on the other side of this. I can take this then, get it to a lab, and do a DNA test. So what I've got is I've got the camera up on the tree. It's looking down here at me and at this whole area. Not only perhaps might the apple bring something in, might step on the trap, but also it's on the runway and maybe just some natural travel, and it'll step on the trap. All right, so this time what I have is a motion-triggered light. Now, it's actually on at the moment because I triggered it. This is well within the zone of, I'll call it the zone of stealth, where we're putting all kinds of cameras and lights and DNA traps. And I'm gonna set this guy up right here so that if it goes off, I'll know something's really close. So, pretty straightforward. Light down here, and that will turn off, but then it will trigger on again if something moves within this area here. So the idea here is really quite simple. All around me is what I would call a solar circle, the campfire being in the center. 75% of it is set up in a sort of entrapment kind of way. But then over here, in behind me, all up in there, will be the no zone, the safe zone. I'll put no cameras, a tiny little bit of low tech with some thread and some gifting, but no cameras, nothing at all. So if I'm assuming, and this is what I think I want to do, is assume some sort of major intelligence, then this is like saying, okay, this area here, it's all yours to play with. If you want to sneak up on me, you've got this whole zone here, you can sneak up on me. One thing's for sure, if it makes use of it, then that speaks to me as well. That's a different kind of evidence. If everywhere else is left alone, and there's all kinds of big footprints by large human-type shaped feet in the area where there are no cameras and no traps, well, that's just something to consider, something to throw in the mix to try and figure out the pieces of this puzzle. For now, I'm still in the stealth mode. I'm gonna set up this baby.
I'll try anything to confuse and conquer whatever might be out here that's smart enough to recognize camera equipment. My next step will be to hike around the woods and let everything out here know that I'm here too.
If anything, what I'm doing is I'm introducing the area to me. Sort of like, I'm here. Here's my scent. Here's my energy. I'm here. Anything that's here, that's paying attention, won't miss me. I'll stick out like a sore thumb.
A 900-pound omnivore needs food, and there's plenty here to eat in the Texas woods.
Hogs are a big concern in these woods. They're thick in this forest, and they represent two things, a serious danger and serious prey. If there was something large and strong that wanted to eat a hog, he'd have his pickings in a place like this. So as you can see, there's more danger in these woods than just hogs and the rare cougar. He's definitely feeling threatened at the moment. Got that mouth wide open, opens, closes slowly. You can see the tail just do its little, it's almost like a fake rattle because I'm not hearing anything, but he's doing it. It shows you, he blends right in. You can step on one of these guys without even thinking about it, without even noticing. You're walking along, wearing thin, small shoes, thin socks or something like that, bang. Now if I put my boot out towards him with the bottom of my boot, the closest thing to him, if he is going to strike, that's likely what he's going to strike at. Now, this is not something I say you should go and do. I'm just suggesting that if you're stuck in a situation like this, that the bottom of your boot is one of the safest places you have on your body. Big, thick rubber, and that's what the snake sees. But he also represents one other thing. He's a food source. For me right now, one club, bam, he's done, I've got dinner. Now, if there were predators out here that were as adept as I am, let's say, at swinging a stick, he's lunch.
Several years ago, Here in East Texas, Jeff Stewart came upon something eating a dead hog.
Walking up, I could see that there was something there. But I thought maybe it was several raccoons wadded up eating the entrails, the guts. As I got closer, probably maybe 20, 25 feet, it stood up. 15 years old, 1986. Camping trip down on the Sabine River in Panola County. And we'd caught a bunch of catfish, and we'd cleaned them, skinned them and everything out of this old hand pump well that we had down there on our place. Cooked our fish that night. We ate our fish, sitting around the campfire, and this immediately, put me on edge, because I'm not thinking Bigfoot or anything like that. I'm thinking this is somebody that's trying to scare me. This is somebody that's out to do no good to a 15-year-old kid out in the middle of the woods. It looked more primitive. And didn't say nothing, just looked at me. And it takes 3 steps backwards, toe to heel. And which is very important, because people say, oh, maybe you saw a bear. Bears can't walk toe to heel. Bears can't walk backwards. If they do, it's very clumsy, it's very odd. This was fluid, this was smooth. And about 3 steps, it got into the edge of the woods, and it turned, and it walked away hurriedly on 2 legs. Never went down on all 4s. This thing's walking on 2 legs the whole time. I'll just never forget that smell, that sight, and that feeling that I had. This was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned in your life that's real and unreal.
Real or unreal, phenomenon or myth. Either way, you can't deny thousands of similar eyewitness accounts. Do we write them all off as lying and delusional? Or are we the ones in denial, judging from our couches?
I think I'm gonna start here. I've put out a bit of a low-tech trap. I've got some small black thread. We're talking really fine thread here. It'll be really hard for me to find, actually. I'll string this across the trees, and what I'm going to do is 3 different lines of it, 3 different sections, so that if something is going to get through this area, they're going to actually have to kind of know the thread is there and duck around it. Well, that is anything that's either 7 feet tall, a bird flying through, a bat flying through, or a branch falling off a tree.
All tracking and evidence gathering begins with ruling out what it isn't before jumping to conclusions about what it might be. Scientific objectivity is not served by ignoring the question of Sasquatch, by ignoring the mounds of evidence that accumulate year in and year out. At some point, we've got to do the math and come up with some real answers.
Okay. This one's going to strike you as a little bit odd, but Bigfoot researchers and enthusiasts swear that this works. Now, you may have heard about gifting with food, say apples, and of course the claims and the stories that the apples are taken or the food is taken. So, taking a cue from some friends of mine, what I have here, some marbles. Put 10 marbles here, and one of the things I'm going to do here is actually arrange them in a bit of a purposeful design. What I want to do is make sure that I photograph them so I can come back and compare and say, yeah, nothing's moved at all, or this is really bizarre.
Here's a spot here that is just nice, just perfect, because it's hidden up in the woods here.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
I'll get a record of it on film so I know what it looked like the way I left it. I can check later to see if it's changed.
If Sasquatch is only mythical, then shouldn't the description of it vary as widely as the hundreds of different names given it by the native cultures of this continent? The Comanche of Texas called them Piamupits, described as a terrifying cave-dwelling ogre that's very tall, hairy, foul-smelling, and has big feet.
In fact, a lot of Bigfoot researchers disagree on so many things, but one thing they don't disagree on is that the best thing to do is just to act natural. Be in the places that are reported to be Bigfoot hotspots, or seem like they should be. But when you're there, don't do anything special. Because 90% of the interactions that take place happen by accident.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm to stay in this tent alone and quiet. The whole tent, I was cutting on the outside of the tent, so I've got holes all the way around so that I can see out of every side, but not much can see me. And wait, and listen, pay attention to the forest around me, become very alert to all the nuances of my surroundings. My team is a few hundred yards away. They got a campfire going. Now they are taking the role of a normal bunch of campers, sitting around by the fire, talking, telling stories. But they're also monitoring a seismograph, that parabolic microphone, night vision cameras. And so they're taking care of all of the stealth equipment. It is raining. That changes things. Blankets a lot of sounds. But what it might do is give something, let's say, more guts, make something less timid. Might come in even closer.
One of the greatest blunders of researchers who try to have some kind of interaction with a Sasquatch is that they are not scientifically gathering data. The documenting of information might be the one action that actually interests mainstream scientists. Without it, someone's word or going on anecdotal references is not going to convince anyone that all of this is anything more than delusional nonsense. One exception is the Olympic Project in Washington State. For the past 7 years, they've been collecting data based on in-depth field research. The Olympic Project is an association of researchers, anthropologists, investigators, biologists, and trackers committed to documenting evidence of Sasquatch through scientific methods. Through comprehensive habitat study, DNA analysis, and game camera deployment, their goal is to obtain as much information and empirical evidence as they can, with the hopes of one day achieving actual species verification. Even with 50 different camera setups, we got nothing all night, which doesn't prove or disprove anything. I've been told that I'm fiercely determined. Well, then I'll use my determination to get to the truth, out here. Big hairy monsters don't scare me, and no one group of Bigfoot advocates or naysayers will make me their poster boy. I'll stand in the line of fire and turn this into a race for truth between me and Sasquatch.
Where I stand in all of this, I stand right on the fence between skepticism and acceptance, trying to expose both worlds, not to debunk them or slam them or bring them down, but to say, look, let's look at everything honestly. It's truth that we need here. I'm searching for the truth of this subject matter. The phenomenon of Bigfoot becomes being just as much about all of the characters within this scale that are researching it as it does about Bigfoot itself. And I think that's actually unfortunate, because then the focus is taken off the subject matter and put onto the people who are out there messing with it. Bigfoot is absolutely a contradiction. It's a 10-foot monster that we can't find. You know, advocates are looking at markings on trees and in the ground, and they're simply wanting an answer. And it's right to want an answer to what these different things are, what this phenomenon is all about. Those are good questions to ask. Why not? It's not about unicorns or leprechauns anymore. Unicorns don't leave tracks in the ground. Leprechauns don't leave blood on the trees and hair samples. But Bigfoot does. Science needs to take a good look at that and question it as well, in a real way, with real science. We need a combination of empirical science and evidence-based science. But the evidence has to be scrutinized in a very tough fashion. The subject of study is legitimate, because if it's all mythological, where did the mythology come from? What's it mean? In the end, Bigfoot symbolizes the power of nature. It's kind of like the eco-messiah. It's like the ultimate ambassador for green spirituality. If Bigfoot survives, nature survives.
Every myth reveals a truth about the culture that created it. What does Sasquatch reveal about us? After a couple of uneventful days trying out all the stealth surveillance equipment in East Texas near the Louisiana border, I've opted to move to another area, a location where there are similar stories to the ones in Texas. But in some of these stories, the Bigfoot encounters are less than benign, and sometimes even dangerous. I've often boasted that where I'm headed is in the top 3 of the most beautiful places on the planet. Yet behind the beauty lies a dark secret. Legends of Bigfoot encounters that end fatally for the humans involved. Through all my searching for Sasquatch, a handful of places stand out as more dangerous than the others. Oregon is one, and also here, just south of the Uinta region of Utah, where the Shoshone have a name for it too. Tsopits, meaning cannibal giant.
There's something different out here. Some odd things up here happen. In fact, right here, we've had sounds that's just, you can't explain. A lot of times, like a baby crying, and screams that just make the hair stand up on your head, you know. It ain't really a growl, but it's different, you know. For one of the calves, somebody mutilated it, cut its ears off, its eyes out, and part of the back of its head, and then they went into the hind end and to cut that out. There was no blood around it, but the way it was mutilated, it was almost surgically. You know, what I can't see, I have a hard time believing. But I know there's something there. And it's got me, I'm a lot more leery when I go out. I mean, really leery.
This particular canyon, local ranchers figure is haunted. Hear ungodly screams is the way they describe it. Freaks a lot of people out. It's just up here, rock paintings. There's elk, deer, but there's also strange-looking creatures too, strange, larger people. You can see here, things got horns and pretty large feet. You know, how this creature is depicted in native lore and how it relates to Sasquatch or Bigfoot, you've got to recognize that there are 1,000-year-old rock paintings spread throughout North America that depict large, hairy, upright walking human beings. See, I freaked myself out. That's just a fly buzzing, but it echoed in the rocks here. Oh, brother. They are depicted right alongside of normal animals, wolf, raven, eagle, you name it, bear, coyote. So something has been going on here for thousands of years, long before we got here and long before someone coined the phrase Bigfoot.
I want to find out what's going on here. The scary stories don't unnerve me one bit, and I found an ally in Kelly Shaw, a man with a family history of Bigfoot encounters. Like me, he's just searching for the truth of the matter, here in Utah. I've jumped from Texas to Utah in my search for Sasquatch.
This spot here is an area where my guide here, Kelly Shaw, they casted a massive track and had what he called bluff charges. Bigfoot breaking branches just up in behind them, just up in here. You see any kind of track in this?
That's the exact spot we dug up that cast last year. That's the exact spot that you're
so that's
pointing
what that
out.
is. That's the divot.
That's the divot from us digging it up. That's exactly where it was at.
Wow.
And I was just in shock when we saw this one. I mean,
Right.
it was.
I can see, yeah.
Because anytime I find a Bigfoot footprint, I'm always trying to blame it on something else. You know, is this a couple of cows or elk or a moose double, triple stepping? And I couldn't explain it away. I had to accept that it was a Bigfoot footprint. A lot of the ranchers think all these canyons around here are haunted. I, for one, think that Bigfoot activity is being mistaken for haunting, because some of the screams are very haunting, like a woman in distress, the whoops, the wood knocks, and then when you get an intimidation display, and it's hard to call it a display because they don't actually show themselves,
But it's pretty intimidating when they rush the tree line and keep pacing back and forth, stomping and snapping stuff off.
Kelly's version of an intimidation display sounds exactly like what I experienced in Alaska many years earlier.
It was
How big were the footprints?
They were 17 inches long by almost 8 inches wide. This was like the narrowest part of the snow.
Okay.
And you could tell they stayed in the dry spot, and it crossed kind of like a linebacker sidestepping across the snow.
Okay.
And then headed off that direction. We found a Bigfoot that was sidestepping right here. He's doing this little shuffle sidestep. I've heard of him doing this. That is just a massive footprint.
You can see the toes.
Yes. And you can see my fresh footprint right next to it. It's a very warm day today. The snow's melting quick. So it must have made this when the snow was a little bit colder.
Kelly wouldn't normally camp out in the research area, especially not alone. So naturally, that's what I'm going to get him to do with me.
We're going to set up in a spot here that the elk like to bed down, and all of this area where we are right now is just, they've found them, it's been riddled with Sasquatch tracks, big ones, 19-inch, 17-inch, 14-inch. This branch here, this has got that whole sort of break, twist thing going on, and this happened during the nice season. It didn't happen during snow load or anything like that. This was done, very physically done, in between treks that the team had made coming into here. Snapped and twisted and pulled down. So we're camping just up here. I've got the stealth tent this time, and then about 75 yards this way is another depression area where they call Bigfoot Highway, where they got an awful lot of tracks. So we'll let the dark come in and see what happens, because apparently we are smack dab in the middle of the hot zone.
I can't just expect an encounter anywhere. The claim to be hotspots are key to having any kind of interaction.
So right now I'm halfway between where we are sleeping tonight and what they call Bigfoot Highway down there. What I want to do is, I've got Kelly's permission to test out one of these pheromone chips. These are the ones that it's a combination of gorilla sex pheromone and human sex pheromone, apparently. Whatever that means, I don't know, but it stinks, so let's find out what happens. Oh, phew. Ah, stinks. Well, let's just make it obvious, shall we? So something else I want to do is kind of create almost like a camera fence. I don't have a lot of the trail cams, but if I put the camera here, facing this way, they won't like to come past the cameras, so I'm told. So if they don't like to come past the camera, they're either gonna have to go across there or across there, which in a way would be better for them because it gives them the height advantage. They're up above us. If they come along here, they're down below us, and all reports are they don't normally do that unless they feel super comfortable or aggressive. Maybe that gives you something to worry about. Let's put this guy up, though. All right, so strung up along the way, I've got 4 trail cams. All right, one here, this one, and they're all, I've kept them obvious. They're just out in the open. And it's got one here. This one is pointing to this spot right here. And I've hammered in a pheromone chip there. And then further down, there's another camera also pointing in this direction. Then we're camping. Then there's a camera pointing in this direction, pheromone chip further down, and then another camera pointing in this direction. So all the cameras pointing in one direction like a camera fence. You know, so anything that comes along here will get it. Anything that comes along that's savvy to cameras will be forced to go up behind the cameras, which is all in behind us, all where we are right here. And as far as the pheromone chip goes, I haven't got a clue. It's really just trying anything to see what could happen. Sun's creeping its way up to the top of the hills, so it's gonna be dark soon.
I've been told that having teenagers or kids around can increase the chances of an encounter with Sasquatch.
The deal is that I'm set up in camp with Kelly Shaw. He's got his tent, I've got mine. In fact, I did a little change this time, just to shift things up, see if anything happens. I just heard like a whoop, whoop.
up there. Anyway, what I was gonna say was I brought my son. Get a week off school and use him as Bigfoot bait. See if they come in because there's a teenage boy hanging about. You know, the thing about a situation like this and why I like working with Kelly is he's not out to change the world. He's just simply out looking for answers to his own experiences, of which he's had many, and his family. He comes from a generation of people who've had Bigfoot sightings. So he's out here just to prove it to himself, nobody else. In Kelly's case, he's seen things. He's seen darting, upright, furred creatures, you know, walking these hills. He hasn't had a close-up visual encounter, and neither have I. He's a little further along the road than I am as far as being sure that they're here. He's still not 100% sure, and that's why he continues in his search. This is a great spot. It just looks like if you could, you know, your mind's eye, and look up there, you just think, oh yeah, you see something up there. A lot of wishful thinking to think you're gonna look up there and see some 8-foot tall, hairy guy running down the hill. Of course, if he was running towards you, then I don't know how long I'd stay there and watch him.
If this is a game, then it's one that gets us out in the wilderness connecting with nature. If interest in Sasquatch is getting people out into the forest during an era when it would seem that interest in hunting and fishing and hiking is at a low, then so be it. In this way, Bigfoot proves out its reputation for being an advocate for nature, for being a symbol of our own connectedness to the earth. And so, in the absence of the city noises, Kelly, Logan, and I settle into the forested area of Utah as night falls, otherwise known as the witching hour for Sasquatch.
So we've got a couple of those glow sticks that you crack and then they stay lit for a few hours. And we're gonna pop them inside our empty drinking bottles. We're gonna put one out here by a pheromone chip. And this pheromone chip has a camera on it, so I'm just gonna leave it sitting. Logan and I are holding up in one tent, and then a little ways away, Kelly Shaw is in his tent. We're gonna keep our ears wide open while we sleep tonight. This is the morning we wake up to. I myself didn't hear anything last night, and neither did Kelly. Logan actually said he woke up in the middle of the night and heard growling up in this area, up in here. He said he knew it wasn't me because I was right beside him, and he knew it wasn't Kelly. Kelly was over on the other side, and just heard like that 2 or 3 times, he said, and that was it. Other than that, no real action into the night.
We were visited during the night by this mountain lion caught on Kelly's trail cam. He came within a few feet of our tent.
I'm gonna hike around these hills for the day and into the night. Let the night fall on us. See if we stir up anything.
In both Texas and here in Utah, I'm seeing the signs, hearing about the evidence, but I'm not feeling any closer to a real experience. I'll keep searching, trying anything.
All right, so we've stopped, and the boys have headed back on the trail. I'm going to give them a good bit of distance between me and them, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I'll wait here. Just on my own. I want to walk back alone. You know, turn myself into bait, you know, make myself conspicuous. Looks like a mule deer. So, something caught and ate a mule deer here. Could have been bear, could have been human. Could have just died. Old age, but his bones have been picked at. So now this has tooth marks that I know researchers have been looking for. The tooth marks that look like human teeth. not fangs. A definite teeth mark on this. I think I'll take this back.
These are the kinds of research details that are starting to make a difference scientifically. Once you collect the data and you rule out death by wolf, bear, human, or mountain lion, you start to narrow down the answers to the questions of what is going on out here. Whether or not one of those answers leads to Sasquatch is another story.
That's what you had seen when you first got here, was more all sort of green?
We seen it right after it had been made. It looked like everything was really fresh, and you could still smell the pine from, you know, the fresh snaps.
Right, okay. So this spot here, when Kelly and his team were researching this area earlier, it was during the summer, so snow load is ruled out. And you can see right up at the top, you've got branches broken off. I mean, and nothing broke them off. There's no, you know, cliff rocks that have come down or super large tree that knocked them down. And the ones beneath them are not broken off, so that's really odd. Down here, all gathered together like this, and when they were here, you could still smell the evergreen boughs, sort of bedding sites that people are claiming belong to Sasquatch.
When one researcher takes you to a so-called tree structure, it's easy to be skeptical. But when they start showing up in wilderness everywhere, it becomes a curious find indeed.
Same thing again. What you've got happening is they're almost like woven at the top. The bottoms are not root structures. There's no root structures at the bottom yet. They're still shoved down about 6 inches into the dirt and lined up in this strange manner now. Get to see these sort of structures in different places. This is the first time I've seen them sort of like this. Either way, this is a deliberate structure. These didn't grow like this, and they didn't fall here like this, and it's not snow load. None of those elements will do this. This is more deliberate. That doesn't say what it is. It just says what it isn't. The meaning of these structures is really just complete conjecture. It's hard to figure out and know why they're put like this. So why are they here? And if they are indeed done by a species claimed to be Sasquatch, Bigfoot, then what's their meaning? Territorial? Are they marking something? Are they sending a message? These structures are popping up all over the place. What's going to happen now is we're going to have to be careful that humans aren't doing the structures, and that's where it's going to start getting confusing. So it's going to be about trying to discern the jokes and the hoaxes from the real deal. But what I've decided to do is a bit of a night hike up a different hollow here. This is one of the main ones that ranchers think are haunted. They hear quote-unquote ungodly screams coming out of this place. Naturally, that has my interest piqued, my curiosity. Set on fire here, so I'm gonna walk up it for a ways. Walk it in the nighttime.
I'll go a mile or two up the hollow and wait for the dark to come in. I'll keep facing this search head on until I experience an encounter. With what? Who knows? But I'll be ready.
Seems sufficiently creepy with the dusk coming in, so I'm going to wait it out. Wait for it to get dark. And then a couple miles in, so I'll wait for it to get dark, and then I'll slowly make my way out. A lot of this seems to be about going into a spot, trying to stir something up, and then seeing what happens. A lot of the stories come from that. People go on a basic hike, and they walk out, and on the way out, they start getting hassled. Rocks thrown at them, tree branches thrown at them, something shadowing them 50, 60 yards away in the bush, just out of sight, that can throw rocks. All the way to the parking lot, all the way to their car. That story repeats itself all over North America. Let's see if something follows me out of this haunted canyon. It's Haunted Hollow, I guess. That sounds cooler anyway. The Haunted Hollow.
What throws rocks out of the bush at people? What screams in the night? What are thousands of people seeing that is over 8 feet tall with massive shoulders, covered in hair, not fur, and runs upright like a large human? These questions persist, regardless of the couch skeptics.
When I walk, all I hear are the crunch of my boots on the snow. I have to stop and listen. And this is the tricky part, sometimes you're sleeping in the bush at night, and I'm laying there and I'm trying to listen to the sound, trying to see if I hear something, and then, I hear something all of a sudden. What's happening is, you know what I'm hearing? I kid you not, I'm hearing my beard rub on my coat. But if I'm half asleep and I hear that, it sounds like something moving the bushes 200 yards away. Easy to fool yourself out here. It's getting dark enough. I'm gonna need to put on my headlamp soon. Can't really see where I'm walking at this point. I'm not really sure if a headlamp will help to attract something to me, get a Sasquatch interested in me, if they exist, or scare things away, or let a mountain lion know exactly where he needs to pounce on me. Seems everywhere I go has its own set of crazy stories. Running the gamut of seeing big hairy apes to alien abductions out here in the wilderness. The wilderness is a place I like to call home, so I think what I'll do is I'll keep coming out here. I'm comfortable out here, alone and in deep and dark and in remote places. If there's something going on out here, I'd like to see it. I ain't quitting yet. Let's see what I can find.
Jeff Stewart of Texas knows what he saw. Kelly Shaw believes his father and his father before that. Wally is like me. He's heard some strange things out here. So go ahead and sit on the couch and cry out, skeptic. You're not out here. This is where the action is. And who knows? Maybe someday something big and hairy will throw a rock at me, and I'll get a glimpse at whatever it is that's causing all the fuss. And then I'll finally have my answer. Whatever that answer might be.
Here's the idea I want to get across. If you take a look at all of the beliefs surrounding Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, you name it, what you get is a scale. Now, over here on this side are the researchers who believe it's an ape. It's Gigantopithecus. Over here, you've got aliens. Once you get right into the middle of it, what you have is a battleground. And people are going at it like this the whole time. This group thinks that this side is off their rocker. This group thinks that this side is completely missing things. So there's the broad spectrum, this big scale, the scale that is Bigfoot. My job is not to say it's an alien or it's a Gigantopithecus. My job is to get people to bring me into these areas, to let me experience what they experience, to see what can happen, and to keep an open mind to all possibilities. You don't need those thousands of casted footprints to be real. You only actually need one of them to be real, to then say that the species exists at all, whatever it might be.
I'm back on the west coast of Canada, looking for clues and hoping for answers. If they do exist, they can only have survived alongside our species without being killed off or dominated by being far more elusive than we can readily understand or are even willing to. But this possibility requires the mind to stretch beyond its accustomed conception of the forest and its inhabitants. And to do that, I'm gonna have to try some new methods.
What seems to be happening a lot is I'm meeting up with people who come at it from a more spiritual angle. For them, it's about connecting with a species that has a level of intellect, ability, spirituality that
takes it to a different place. That's the thing with all these inroads into the subject matter, whether it's purely biological, searching for an ape that walks upright, or really on the other far side of things, figuring they're connected to the star people or the aliens, or somewhere down the middle where they're biological but they're also spiritual and intelligent. It's an interesting way to look at the subject matter.
Sonia Zohar and Randy Breeson are two Sasquatch advocates that don't give the matter a second thought. They don't struggle intellectually with the concept that this species may come with some kind of inherent spirituality, even possessing mental and physical abilities far beyond what mainstream science considers normal. But then, what's normal when it comes to Sasquatch? Or to ponder more deeply, what's normal, period? Randy, Sonia, and almost the entirety of the Aboriginal perspective don't stop at Sasquatch being a big, upright walking ape. They already know it's capable of a lot more than just throwing rocks and disappearing behind trees. Many so-called habituators, like Randy, attempt to talk to their Sasquatch visitors indirectly through objects. They start their attempts at connecting to Sasquatch not by leaving bait, but by giving gifts. And on many occasions, as it is with this twisted twig, they're left with gifts in return. With this gentle approach, it would seem that lessening potential exposure anxiety in whatever is out there will help to achieve communication. This is done by using small objects in digestible small doses. Can a purely instinctual animal communicate through gift exchanges? These are still images of Randy's. Over the years, he's documented hundreds of odd occurrences. Strangely twisted and decorated branches. Elk limbs left hanging in trees. Numerous tracks. And this face, this image peering out from behind a stump. You can add all these to the 10,000 other images collected from around the world.
One day I was here, just like after 2 years of doing it, slowly let me come down, they go back up. Slowly come down, you know what I mean? They didn't trust me at first. And one day right here, I'm just about to walk up, and there's one there and two sitting over there.
Even when Randy does leave out food, he prefers to make things difficult for known animals such as bears or raccoons. Jars of salmon are left in such a way that only hands can open.
Sonia believes it's important to start leaving very intricate gifts, gifts that of all natural substances, handmade crafts, things like that. And she's been doing that, and they disappear. What out in the wilderness takes away a trinket? Well, squirrels do.
Tracking is all about noticing subtle changes in the environment and then ruling out the probable causes, and that includes humans.
So here's, what you might want to call a tree break, except you can clearly see the axe marks. There's so much pop culture surrounding the subject of Bigfoot to get this joke effect. You get teenagers and people doing hoaxes. Now that they hear about tree breaks and structures, you're going to probably have all kinds of hoax tree breaks all over the place, wherever the public can easily get to, and lining them up and, in an attempt to freak out girlfriends and things like that,
So why not try my own hoax? Make my own set of tracks in an attempt to trick the experts? Well, to do that, I'll need to go to the experts, special effects designers, in Hollywood, California. I was surprised to learn that acquiring a Bigfoot suit is easier than I thought. Matt and Roy at Soda Productions, one of the best in the business, explained to me that there have been dozens of B movies made about Bigfoot in Hollywood. And all of those expensively custom-designed suits are still in existence, and you can rent them for $50.
I'm out to say, how difficult or easy is it to pull off a hoax now?
Any kind of effects company, effects shop worth its salt, we've all done a Bigfoot or an ape. There's so many out there. They're full scale, they're 8 feet tall, and they're completely self-contained.
The other thing too is to get somebody out there in one of these things, it's horrible. It's a horrible condition. You know, I mean, you're sitting there in like 2 inches of foam with hair on you. I mean, you're gonna drop dead.
Okay, so hoaxing takes some serious effort, and I have no interest in hanging around campgrounds in a claustrophobic suit custom made at a cost of over $50,000. But track making is another matter. And Roy and Matt send me home with a set of my very own Sasquatch boots.
Better thing to do here would be to try and get 7-foot strides so I can show the strides. There's just no way I can do a 7-foot stride carrying all this weight on my feet and do a jump. I'm lucky to get 3 or 4 here, so what I'll do is I'll walk along the lake, up over this dock, off that way. Whoa, shows you gotta really put some thought into how to make something like this work. It's not so easy. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, you can just make some fake tracks. Oops, keeps falling off.
Just to get to this stage has cost me over $1,000. Perpetrating a hoax is just not as easy as it sounds. Back in Ontario, I'm using my own set of Sasquatch boots to make fake tracks I can cast and take to Bigfoot researchers in an effort to see how easy it is or isn't to pull off a hoax.
Okay, so that makes it look like I was trying to film the set of tracks that I found. If there's ever an issue with people who have claims of tracks and seeing Bigfoot, it's that if they have footage, where's the before and after clips? Where's the messy footage? Like in the Roger Patterson film, they never show the 30 seconds leading up to the Bigfoot. It's good to see what led up to something to establish the proof of it.
I'm not attempting to ruin anyone's reputation or even make a mockery of the subject matter. What I want is to get to the answer to my question, which is, concerning all of the evidence of Sasquatch in existence today, how easy is it or isn't it to fake? At this point, my own tally is 4 full days of my time and over $3,000, including airfare. And I'm a long way from pulling off my hoax.
The first set of tracks you guys gave me, I have some things to tell you about with that. I did them in the snow, and one track kind of picked up the crystals in the snow, and then the other one got the toes really nicely. But now I'm coming to you guys, the pros, and saying, let's do this for real now.
What I think we should do, basically we resculpt the foot in clay, and we'll go and we'll try to make the occipital ridges and stuff a little bit closer. We had talked about that too.
Mm-hmm. A big one is how to do the track set. And when I say that, I mean the actual distancing of the walk. We don't have to put them on my feet.
Okay.
So that might help.
Or we can make your legs longer. And then what I'd like to do this time, instead of make them out of fiberglass, is make them out of a really tough urethane.
It'll only take Roy and Matt a day to make the next set of track makers, so I'll leave them to it. And I'll head back to Sonia and Randy in Western Canada. Sonia's connection to the natural world, including Sasquatch, is personal, spiritual, and intimate. She doesn't use trail cams, overhead drones, or heat sensor cameras. She has a highly tuned skill set that I have never acquired, that of meditation. After building her ceremonial spot in the middle of the forest with candles and feathers, she then asks me to have time alone for about an hour. It takes time to calm the soul and the spirit, and only once she feels right will she then invite me to take part in a pointed and focused period of meditation.
Sonia and I are in the forest to practice some meditation. Now, it's not just basic, normal meditation for personal benefit, although it is good for that, but it's also meditation focused on connecting to Bigfoot, whatever else is out here.
So as you know, meditation is just a quieting, stilling of the mind. And the reason for that is this: you have a system in your body that never shuts down, which is your nervous system. So even while you sleep, you dream. So the idea of meditation is to quiet yourself into a position where that system in your body gets to relax. But in this endeavor, what we want to do is quiet it down and still ourselves so that we can listen. Deep breath and let it out with your mouth.
Until now, I've considered my time in the forest to be meditation enough. But Sonia's methods are far more focused. To connect to the Sasquatch on their terms, it may be that instead of invasive trail cams and whooping in the dark or banging on trees, what's needed is to turn down my own volume, give them a sense of grace and privacy, and approach them indirectly so as not to have them feel invaded. Randy and Sonia are close to the left side of the Sasquatch scale, rejecting categorically the Gigantopithecus or big ape theories. They feel that while trail cams make you feel proactive, they most often lead to nothing. Their method is to connect emotionally, spiritually, and energetically to the species called Sasquatch. And they have a point. No one has a single definitive, indisputable trail cam shot yet. And there are hundreds of thousands of them out there on trees right now. I'm willing to try anything on this road to first contact.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm to stay in this tent alone and quiet. No lights on, everything turned off. And wait and listen, pay attention to the forest around me, become very alert to all the nuances of my surroundings. And to invoke basically that other side of Bigfoot research. I stay out here alone, wait patiently, and using my sheer energy, see what I can bring in.
I'm in the mountains of Western Canada, attempting to elicit an interaction with whatever might be out in the forest that many people are calling Sasquatch. And I'm trying some new methods. Meditation is a way of connecting to the energies of the natural world. It's just as viable a research method as setting up trail cameras. And strangely enough, those that practice it seem to have a greater success at getting a response from whatever might be out in the woods than do those that are laying out trail cameras and DNA traps. As I search through the forest, I'm seeing again a familiar scene that I find unique, perplexing, and thought-provoking. Old cut stumps from logging days, covered with sticks and branches that could not have just fallen on them naturally.
So, what we're looking at here is there's all these, log trees from years and years ago, but every year people leave the area, something moves in and covers these logs, these stumps with this.
What's really strange is that I found this very same phenomenon in southern Oregon and northern California. They're not random fallen twigs. They're clearly placed on the stumps in an orderly fashion. At least one person has commented that it's like something or someone in the forest is lamenting the cutting of the trees and is paying homage to them, or trying to cover them up like a spiritual bandage.
This could easily be teenagers making a fort, kids making a fort. Even to the point where if the kids come back year after year, they add to it. Let's go up to our fort, Johnny. And they go up until they're too old and they don't care anymore.
Knowing the difference between kids making a fort and unexplainable structures in the forest is key. Attention must be paid to where these things happen, because so long as broken and bent trees and even massive human-like tracks are found where humans frequent, everything will be suspect.
Who's doing it? That's intriguing. That becomes another better, more intriguing part of the puzzle, because that's not the kind of thing that humans, teenagers, kids do. We don't do it like that. Even when we're mucking about, we've got to leave things symmetrical and lined up like we're building little houses. And the work is too extensive for little kids to do it. and too consistent for teenagers to do it. And every parent out there knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Our tendency is to model everything after our human minds. How would we survive in the forest? While searching for signs, Randy brings me to markings, and other than squirrels, I can't place them on any known animal.
So we've got all of this pull down of the bark on these trees here. Goes up the tree about 8 or 9 feet, and this, Randy explains, is their markings. They've stripped the bark off here, and as you go up the hill, about every 100 yards or so, the bark is stripped like that, all the way up, just up into the hills there. I'm just looking for tracks as I walk along. I think I found a track. Right here.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
You see? That's the right, that's not mine. Mine's right here. That's me. And then there's this guy right here. But it's like a right foot, and I can feel those toe holes.
This is part of tracking an elusive creature, trying to emulate its movements and its tracks. And in spite of the soft moss, I can't even come close to creating the depth in inches of the tracks I'm finding here.
So, you know, you get out here and the purpose is to interact with some phenomenon that certain individuals will say they've seen and exist. And you do whoops and rock clacking and tree knocking and look for tree breaks and structures and so on. And then you hear, woo, or something like that. And way off in the distance, raven or Bigfoot. You can't know until you see it.
Employing the various methods I've been taught while out researching Bigfoot, I continue on.
Apparently I don't know my own strength. When I was 100 or a couple hundred yards that way, it sounded like rocks being clacked together. It's not, it's a red squirrel. That got him confused. So you see the different sounds that you hear. It might be a squirrel or a bird of some sort. And if you're far enough away and it echoes or it cuts through the trees, you end up hearing something else, like rocks clacking. Bigfoot, let's call them enthusiasts. As a whole group, as a large group of individuals, have a bit of a conundrum. I mean, there's thousands of tracks that are held by experts to be the real deal, unable to have been faked. There's thousands of sightings and anecdotal references of verbalizations and rock throwings and whooping and tree knocking and all that sort of stuff. It goes on and on. Yet popular culture and mass opinion doesn't accept any of that. So it's really quite a problem for the enthusiasts of this subject matter as a whole. Only time is going to answer this question.
And so it's time for me to hook back up with my special effects designers at Soda Productions to take my fake track making to the next level.
Next stage.
Good to see you.
So, talk to me.
We got these, we got them poured up. They've been sitting up for a couple of hours. So we're gonna pop these out of the mold to give you the feet. We've attached them to drywall stilts to give you a parallelogram like a real step. These attach onto here. They telescope down. You can actually wear them and walk in them.
And this is a urethane called Fast Flex, and it's castable urethane, and it kind of feels like a tire when it's completely cured.
Okay.
Dermal skin ridges, movement of toes, and length of stride are all considered this time. And these track makers were actually modeled after Roy's own set of what are supposed to be real tracks cast in Washington years ago. It's time to take my hoaxing to the next level. I have the track makers. Now I need to make and subsequently cast with plaster my fake tracks. My current bill, by the way, is now approaching $10,000 in costs. And that's with Roy giving me a deal out of sheer interest. Hoaxing is indeed no simple matter. I have to show pictures of the measurements and pay attention to getting some quality castings. As good as I'm getting at doing this, I still blew it on the first few attempts, until finally, I had my prize, albeit fake, track. But now comes the litmus test. Can I present all of this to Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagel, two of the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to Bigfoot tracks and biology, and have them spot the fake? Do these accredited professionals face controversy in their fields? You bet they do. But they remain undaunted, and with the amount of data they're aware of, there are no doubts in their minds of the creature's existence. Jeff and John are on the extreme left side of the scale, convinced that we are dealing with an upright walking ape, or perhaps Gigantopithecus. And their knowledge level of detail on everything from foot morphology, including skin dermal ridges, to hair DNA, is impressive to say the least.
Here was a hoax of the day.
These are hoaxes?
These are hoaxes.
Wow.
So here, you can actually see the person has used their hand, and in trying to impress the soil, without excavating, what they do is they press in here, it causes the soil to hump up. And then here they're just using their fingers. I mean, these are so clearly finger imprints.
Just as it becomes easy for a wildlife biologist to know the difference between a black bear track and a grizzly bear track, many of the same field techniques are used to flesh out the fake Bigfoot tracks from the real ones. As Jeff points out all of the various tracks, I get to see a piece of Sasquatch history.
And what are these here?
These are just some replicas. These are from the Patterson-Gimlin film site, actually. So this is the tracks of Patty. These were cast by Roger Patterson. This is one of the two originals. Those are still excellent examples of presumably a female Sasquatch.
To keep my ruse as real as possible, I've also brought along 3 other castings, which are supposedly real and actual Bigfoot tracks, including my own from Clem 2, British Columbia.
I'm just sort of bringing them to you two gentlemen.
Sure.
And saying, okay, well, now let's take a look at these.
All right.
So these here were in the Clem 2 area out on Clem 2 Lake in the sand. They happened overnight while I was out there alone, and they were 40 yards apart.
So looking at this, I would assume this is the track, and here's the ball, and the indication of the arch, and then big toe, and then the smaller lateral toes. It's actually very similar to a human. And of course the size, you're not ruling out a human by tremendous size proportions.
I wanted to argue about those casts because I was there. But for now, on to the sting.
I looked at these striations here. Is that what you call dermal ridging?
That could well be. Maybe some down here. It's pretty faint. Yeah, in fact, that's pretty good. The detail is actually pretty interesting. The toe stems are quite visible. I was talking earlier about the significance of the breadth to length ratios, and that breadth is quite compelling. These teardrop-shaped toe pads are very natural looking. I mean, it bears a striking resemblance here to this footprint.
At first, and I believe it was out of courtesy and good manners for my benefit, I seemed to have them fooled. But then, giving into his more scientific and critical thinking, Jeff notices something too coincidental to ignore.
And this is one thing that does sometimes give me pause. This is a very widely known track.
Yeah, true.
The more I talk about these things, the easier it is for someone to get a hold of a copy like this and use it either as a pattern, either directly, or as a pattern to make a fabrication. This one actually looks a lot like this track, except it seems to be a bit broader, and that could just be some of the deformation in the snow and the casting process after. But even that very distinctive teardropped toe, which is quite similar to this example here, teardrop toe.
Would you say, yeah, this is suspect on any of these?
Well, I wouldn't place a lot of value on these, quite honestly, because I'm pretty sure that's human. So I would set those aside.
Okay.
These are very interesting to me, and I would want to look at them further to eliminate conclusively that possibility that a hoaxer was using some other source of inspiration to come up with a believable footprint.
This guy here, that's exactly what this is. This is a fake based on this.
Oh, really?
Someone who has that kind of stuff. But you spotted it.
Yeah.
You know who made this? A Hollywood special effects guy with a passion for hoaxing.
Well, that's sad.
It's sad, but watching you put these 3 tracks together going, these are really close. And I could see your brain scratching, you know, these are really close. To me, I think points more to the credibility of you guys to be able to actually pick this stuff out and decipher what is real from what's fake. One of the throwback debates is, oh, they're all hoaxes. And what I'm trying to say is, some may be, but there are ways to very quickly and sometimes to determine which ones are hoaxes.
Sure. Cool.
So can we 3D analyze this one?
Sure. Yeah.
Just this one.
Yeah.
So did I fool the experts? Let's call it a tie. I played my hand pretty lightly after all. But to their credit, they weren't ready to say anything definitively. The sheer courage of Jeff and John to hold fast in their research is incredible, given the fact that Bigfoot still equals professional suicide. I'm quite certain they're hoping for the day of vindication, when scientifically they can stand back and say, "We told you so." Leaving the fakes behind, we'll take one of the real tracks to the 3D lab where it can be scanned, because as the hoaxers become more sophisticated, so too do the track specialists. The 2 noted scientists, Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagel, are decidedly on the left side of my Bigfoot scale, preferring to focus on the existence of an upright walking ape or hominid. But back in Western Canada, Randy and Sonia focus on connecting to another world altogether. And with their friend Zoe, I'm pushing Randy's limits of exploration. Going out at night, especially alone, is normally out of the question. But that's where I'm most comfortable. And so I return and ask Randy to head out late in the day into his known hotspots for Sasquatch interaction.
This big structure here, all these logs, this goes back to about 2009, 2010, and the Bigfoot researcher in this area said he was here on one day, and then a couple of days later, it was put up. What's interesting about this particular structure is that the story that this researcher got many years ago from a native elder is that all these trees, the number of trees add up to the number of Bigfoot in this particular family, Bigfoot, and then in fact, often these structures represent the birthing of a baby. So this is this traditional native lore that we're talking about now. So 1, 2, 3, 4 trees, 4 logs, all tied in tight together like that, 4 members of the family, and obviously perhaps a 5th member was born. You would think in a forest with millions of trees that you would see hundreds and hundreds of examples of structures like that, but you don't. And often you do see them built with trees that are right in the middle, that have been carried from somewhere else, that came from somewhere else, that do not have a root structure at the bottom. Perplexing.
If Sasquatch is real, it can only have accomplished what it has against all odds every minute of every day by being far more controlled, more precise in its tactics than we are equipped to accept.
So we're headed into a spot that this group has had some serious contact before, rocks being thrown at them on the trail, that kind of thing. I'm gonna lag behind and try and follow their trajectory of walking up ahead of me. I just want to be back up from them, just so I can have that kind of peace of being able to hear anything around me. One thing's for sure, for all researchers of any type of phenomenon in the wilderness, nighttime is a whole different game.
While using my thermal camera, I noticed something about 100 yards away watching us. In my opinion, It was likely a raccoon or a small bear, and it did disappear before I got a solid look at its form. One of the most accurate descriptive terms I have heard that may apply to Sasquatch, if they do indeed exist, is curiously afraid.
You guys hear that?
What did you hear, Randy?
I hear something behind us.
Yeah,
Where we came from.
behind you, Zoe.
Finally, after hours, we hear something I've only ever heard once before, many years ago. After years of experience in the bush, I have never heard a coyote or wolf sound like the howl we heard tonight. Here are 3 separate examples of actual coyote calls. And now, 3 wolf calls. And now, our own scream in the night. Our whole purpose out here was to hike in the dark and work at eliciting an interaction with something other than wolves and coyotes. This sound will be argued about by many.
That was intense. You guys have heard coyotes as well, I mean.
I've heard them all my life.
Yeah.
And that call?
You know what that was? That was an imitation call.
You think it was something imitating a coyote?
Yeah, trying to. Yeah.
I always hear them very high-pitched, very yippy, and usually many of them together.
Now, okay, let me ask you a question. What would be the best way for us to react right now?
I think one of Randy's calls.
Yeah?
Be nice.
I can't say what it was, but I'm not ready to say coyote or wolf. Every creature, including ourselves, is bound by 2 factors: that which we do by instinct and that which we can be taught to do. So was it an instinctual cry of a known species of wildlife? Or a learned method of communication from something as yet undiscovered by mainstream science? It was all we would hear this night, though we continued on in the dark.
So whatever that screech was, that was strange.
I'll be replaying that one in my mind for a while. So tonight, the crew's all together in one spot, and I've chosen to come out a little bit more isolated from them, 150 yards away or so, and just so I could be out here on my own, and I'll let you know if anything happens.
As I camp off on my own in Randy's hotspot for Sasquatch, I get a little more than I bargained for.
So I got something outside the tent. It just woke me up. It was pushing around, moving around all over the tent. Probably a raccoon. And I can hear some big branches being broken far off.
What I failed to mention here is that the pushing came from above, at least 4 feet up on the top of the tent. Long, slow, gentle pushes down. Not very raccoon-like at all.
So whatever was right here is gone, I think. But I mean, I literally woke up. It was light. It was just pushing all around on the tent, just pushing. This just doesn't make sense. I gotta wonder sometimes what I get myself into.
Perhaps a Sasquatch's understanding of the world, of their world, is so entrenched, they have no need to build civilizations upon it, work with fire, or invent the wheel. Perhaps they found their way to exist separate and apart from us, and they're sticking to it, both instinctually and through a strong sense of self-preservation. And violating that understanding would threaten the entire species with extinction, should we humans master their ways. They would be then, in fact, if they exist, the greatest survivalists of all. Now that science is making new discoveries all the time about our own past, about Neanderthals and the recent Denisovans, it would seem we are barely scratching the surface, and each new study of ancient DNA brings a fresh angle of interpretation of a whole new player in the Sasquatch drama. Is Sasquatch an ape, an alien, a hybrid species able to control the as yet unknown laws of the universe? Or here's a mind bender for you. Is Sasquatch another species of human? Instead of composing symphonies, one that focused on methods of survival we are only beginning to understand, the answer is still out there.
Right now I'm on the outside of Portland, Oregon. I'm going to hook up with a friend of mine who has had some similar experiences to what I have experienced, and we're going to chat it out. We're going to talk about those, and there's an area. I mean, it's so funny. There's so many places to go with all this, and this is ostensibly a hotspot. Well, what does that mean? You know, does it mean that it's a hotspot because a lot of people are in this area, so hence you get more references, more interaction, more experiences? Or is it a hotspot because should this species completely and totally exist, it likes to be there? Either way, it's a hotspot. It's been well over a year, maybe 3 years, since the last time I was involved in filming Survivorman Bigfoot for that series. And, you know, really I've gone on record as saying that entire year spent diving headfirst into what I call the phenomenon of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, was an incredible eye-opener for me on too many levels, really. You know, it was an eye-opener in terms of the phenomenon itself, of course, you know, what is involved here. Historically speaking, unbelievable the amount of historical references and evidence. Anecdotally speaking, unbelievable the amount of anecdotal references and things that go on out there. And then it was a matter of not only if there's something to this phenomenon, in other words, if Bigfoot exists, what is it? And that became a real fascinating part for me, was connecting to all these different people who are so impassioned about the subject matter and discovering that they're impassioned on vastly different levels and for vastly different reasons. So we have this whole collective of people that are, you know, from the scientific side of things, who are focused on the concept of Gigantopithecus and you know, how this species of large, upright walking, you know, bipedal ape could still exist intact in the world today. And then you know, you have the debates and the arguments on what it takes for an animal like that to exist. And then, you know, you start walking through all of these different possibilities and stories and things that go on. And then on the other end of the scale, you land on aliens. And, you know, everything that's in between is if you don't find it utterly fascinating, then you need to open up your mind a little.
There was an old man that was down one of the bays down here digging clams. And he wasn't getting too much where he was digging, so he's going over to the little island. And for some reason, he looked back, and here there's some kind of an animal down by where he was digging.
And one of the elders that was with us, he started hearing these sounds of screaming and sounds like someone was getting murdered or someone was being tortured or something. It was really weird, this loud screaming. It was a really uncomfortable feeling, and just hearing that.
Our pails were almost full and our sacks were almost full, and just boom, out of nowhere, this big rock right in the middle of us where we're digging. It just missed. We didn't wait. We took off like scared rabbits.
These are from the Patterson-Gimlin film site, actually. So this is the tracks of Patty. These were cast by Roger Patterson. This is one of the two originals. Those are still excellent examples of presumably a female Sasquatch.
We come up the creek, Roger in front of me, come around this big downfall tree, and the creature was standing just about 30 or 40 feet on the other side of the creek. And so Roger's running across the creek trying to get focus, and my first thought was, yeah, these things really do exist. And then Roger runs across the creek, and he stumbled and fell down. Then he jumps up and runs over to a log and gets his elbows down on the log and starts stabilizing himself to get a better picture. I see this thing walking slow, but it's covering a lot of ground quickly. She got quite a little ways up there, and I said, well, Roger, I want to follow her. And he said, don't leave me here. And then he tells me later why, because there's 3 different sizes of tracks down there, and he thought that the other 2 might be right there. Well, I wasn't thinking about the other 2 or nothing. I just wanted to see this thing again to make sure, you know, to make sure I knew what I was seeing.
Our window was like, you know, probably 6 feet up off the floor. I looked up into the window, and I seen this humongous arm reach right in. It almost touched me. And the arm was this, I mean, it was massive, huge.
There's no calm when there's 6 or 7 Bigfoot
running around you, stomping in the woods, and I was screaming at them. Get out of here! Like I was yelling, like my voice went hoarse.
Ha! Ha! You want some? Ha! Yeah! Ha! Bitch! Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
So that was a brutal night.
I'll just never forget that smell, that sight, and that feeling that I had. At first, it was fear, and I'm not scared of anything. I mean, like I said, I'll fight a grizzly bear with a toothpick. I'm not scared. But this was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned in your life that's real and unreal.
My auntie said she looked back, seen this big thing standing in a red cloak.
And then I heard this scream, and it was right behind the house, and not just us, our neighbors heard the same thing too. He's walking just down the road there, right behind our shed, and watching people going by.
We started running. We never stopped till we got down to the corner here.
Whatever it was pretty big. I'd say 9 feet, 10 feet.
I figured that was a Sasquatch.
Since producing the series Survivorman Bigfoot, I've been approached by a lot of people that have, areas where they believe a lot of activity is going on that's worth looking into. And they've seen that I'm approaching the subject matter with an open mind, but a skeptical mind, not a cynical mind. And so there's honesty that has to be spoken when the experiences occur, whether I'm having the experience or someone is sharing their experience. So in this situation, I dug a little deeper and I went out to this lady's property and did experience some phenomenon that I can only explain by either is an incredible interaction with something out there that ain't no bear, or this woman is lying to me and hoaxing me, having me on. I'll show you what it is, and it's up to you to determine which is which. But for now, I'm trusting her enough that I'm going back there, and I'm meeting my friend Devin, and this time, I want to go out and spend the night out there. Try something new. This time, I'm going to try silence. I'm going to try music, which I've never done before. And I'm going to try turning the camera off and letting it just be. At that point, if something wild and wacky happens, you'll only have one option. Either believe me or call me a liar. Let's go.
Devin Masson is a fellow filmmaker whom I met while shooting Shark Week in South Africa. At the time, while sitting around with the camera crew, I mentioned that I was filming a new series called Survivorman Bigfoot. The boys had a good laugh about it, and didn't even think I was serious at first. But years went by. I did the series, and unbeknownst to me, Devin had by chance his own Bigfoot experience that turned his opinion around and his world on its head.
There we go.
Let's do this. I'm a pretty good read of people. I deal with a lot of different people that try and trick me. And this guy was not trying to trick me at all. He was sincere. He really believed 100% what he was saying. In which he was saying that he goes out and speaks to Bigfoot and his friend can mind speak and it's telepathic. So I came in the understanding of, okay, people think there's this ape living in the woods. And now this guy's throwing on top of that his friend telepathically speaks to them. Their eyes glow, they're highly intelligent, there's lots of them, they can speak. It's taken the ridiculous to a whole new level of ridiculous, and I just kind of threw this guy's story. I'm like, this is hilarious.
So at this point, you're still in mock mode?
Oh, yeah. I'm taking this guy's calls. I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, maybe there's something to this. We can go film this guy who believes this stuff in his head. So I called the guy up, and I kind of tricked him because I told him, hey, I might be able to come there next month. Yeah. Because I didn't want him to go set anything up. So I was like, I might be able to come there next month. What's your work schedule like? He goes, oh, I get off work at around 7 every night. Like, just come up, man. Whatever, we'll take you out. So the next day, I finished shooting, and I started driving towards Kentucky, and I called him on the route. I was like, hey, guess what? I'm like 30 minutes out. He's like, what? I expected him to call it off, or he couldn't do it. No. He met me at a gas station straight from his work. His friend who could telepathically speak to them was the sheriff of the town.
Huh.
So the sheriff cars rocked up there, the guy in uniform. So I'm like, wow, okay, all these things are like adding up. Like he wasn't lying about this stuff at least.
Right.
I brought a friend with me, Ryan, who was also at South Africa at that time. Ryan Powers.
Ryan, okay. Oh, I didn't know Ryan.
So he was on the shoot, but he had no idea. He had no idea if he told this guy.
Well, let's frame Ryan Powers.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, you know, my memory of working with Ryan is he's one of the most cynical, it's all crap kind of guys going.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And
So
I wasn't.
he must have been ready for that.
I'm also pretty not far off from that at that point. I was super skeptical and everything, super science-minded, like ripping everyone off who thinks differently like that. But Ryan had no idea about the conversations I've had with this guy. All he knew was like, hey man, there's this crazy guy that lives in Kentucky 2 hours away. I've been speaking to him for a long time. He swears he's friends with Bigfoot, and he'll take us out. And it's like, you want to come with? It'll be funny. It's like, the only rule is you can't laugh at this guy. You can't laugh at the situation because this guy really believes it, and he's going to take us out. But it's like, you want to come with? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. So he comes out with me. He's got no idea at all what we've ever spoken about with this guy. He went in totally blind. So Ryan's with me. We meet up with the two guys. We head into the woods. They're like, no cell phones, no flashlights, no cameras, no anything. We keep on hiking. It's about an hour in. Ryan Powers comes to me. The other guys are walking ahead of me. Moved on now. He wasn't feeling any care, so moving on. Ryan's like, hey. When we were back there, I swear there was something in the woods that looked like two red glowing eyes, like 8 foot off the ground. I thought I was seeing things. I closed my eyes and I looked back and they didn't go away. And I don't know what it was. It was weird. So I was like, huh. Well, that's strange, because they didn't point it out. If they had set it up, they would have been like, oh, look at that, you know?
Sure.
So they had no idea. They walked off already. Now, this guy that's a telepathic one, all of a sudden, he's a pretty stoic, quiet gentleman. And he all of a sudden lights up like crazy.
This is the sheriff?
The sheriff. He lights up like I haven't seen. And he is excited. He is telling me the big male is right here just beyond the tree line. And this has never happened ever. They're very shy, it takes a lot of trust, but he wants to speak to you individually. He said your name, he wants to speak to you. So I was like, oh, okay. He goes, go introduce yourself to him. So now there I am with my buddy. I'm speaking to the darkness, trying not to laugh, and hoping that he is not laughing, cracking one off. While I'm speaking to the nothing in the darkness, just introducing myself. And I say who I am, what I'm there for, and the guy's like, oh, no response. That's weird. Never responded. They felt bad. They were being really apologetic because nothing happened, because they were like wanting me to come out and see something that would allow this thing to happen that they were dreaming about. And as I unlocked the car, the automatic headlights turned on, and they were facing the woods exactly where we came out, and they didn't know. I clicked the car on my own will, clicked it, lights came on, and wherever we came out of the woods, it sounded like an elephant crashing through the trees, going back deep into the woods. And I mean, like nothing. I mean, it wasn't a deer, it was trees moving, just crashing, something. I was like, whoa, that was kind of
like
weird.
a locomotive.
Yeah, I was like, that was weird. I couldn't explain it, I don't know what it was. It would take a lot of logistics to make that happen at that exact time, and that coupled with the eye thing that Ryan had seen, it kind of, I wrote the night off, but I kept on.
But it's getting questions are going now.
Yeah, I was like, man, it was kind of strange that the main thing was Ryan not knowing anything, had seen that, and then the big crashing thing. I was like, well, it's still BS, but I kept on opening that question a little more than I did in the past. And then it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go again with these guys. They were having a gathering in Georgia, and he's like, I've got you. It's a group of these people that are they don't want to prove anything to anyone, they keep it to themselves. They're just like-minded people that all are experiencing this phenomenon, speaking to big, Sasquatch in the areas, they're friends with them, all this kind of thing. He's like, hey, I got you in. They said you can come to Georgia. So I went out there and then had a full tree pushed down in front of me on command, basically.
And it wasn't windy?
No, dead still. The guys I was out with there was speaking to the Sasquatch allegedly in the area, and he said, hey, can you please show Devin that you're around? He just really needs something. And then as he said that, this tree gets pushed down in front of me.
Right.
And I hear a whoop. And again, nothing conclusive. Trees fall in the forest.
No, but let me go there. Let me react to that, because the tree being pushed down thing.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a phenomenon. It's an occurrence.
Yeah.
That has been told and retold many, many times. And whenever anybody says, well, what they're doing it because this, because that, let's face it, that's going to be conjecture no matter what. And so my conjecture on it is potentially they're doing it to scare you off a little bit. Potentially they're doing it to kind of just gauge your reaction and get a sense of how you're going to react to something like that. And first of all, we have to think about that. They can push a tree down. And we're not talking about saplings.
No, this is
these
tree.
Tree, so I don't know if you had seen my episode in Clem 2 when the tree came down. I've had that happen to me, I gotta say, close to 15 times now.
A tree just fell over there. A very large tree. Wow. I've got chills, and the hair's up on the back of my neck. I am here on the stillest of nights. There is not a breath of wind. You know, and any other time, in any other camping trip, in any other situation, I'd say, oh, that's really cool. Tree must have just rotted just at that time. Oh, and I got to hear it. That's what I've been telling myself for years and years. But since doing the research, there's a lot about how they push trees over to scare you. I'm out here in what's reported to be, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, hotspot for Bigfoot, I guess. And it's the most stunningly beautiful, quiet night here right now. And a huge rock or tree falls over in the corner there. Doesn't make sense.
I took my son and his buddy, we went up to our cottage in Ontario, and I had been filming a week earlier in the same area and had a whacked out, incredible experience filming a Survivorman thing. I won't go into that story, but the second part of the story is I'm at my cottage a week later, and I get out off my boat onto the dock. The boys are still on the boat. I just stepped on. There's no wind. It's a glassy water day. It's beautiful. There's nothing moving. And massive tree comes down right then and there. Okay. By chance, fate of timing, sure. Could be, but this is like tree number 15 now for me. But anyway, and right there, and I'd had all this activity a week before. Okay, in the same way. So tree comes down. I didn't say anything to the boys. Nothing at all. I'm like, huh. But in my mind, I'm like, huh. Yeah. And of course, I'm thinking a little fanciful. I'm thinking, oh, you're here, are you? And I'm just doing that, you know, I'm just thinking that. Yeah. So sure, the power of suggestion's in my brain. Have a night with the boys, everything's good. I wake up the next morning, and Logan goes, man, we didn't sleep all night. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you didn't hear that? I went, no, what? Well, I slept, and this is not the first time this has happened. I slept like a baby while they couldn't sleep all night because something was banging on the cottage. All around the cottage, like bang, 4 bangs over there, and then 5 bangs over there. And Logan was so scared, he got out of his bedroom and went over, and there's bunk beds in the other room, and him and his buddy stayed in that room together. I slept through the whole thing, and as I said, that's not the first time. I think it's the third time now where I'm out there really relaxed, like, hey, I'm just putting it out here, if you know, wouldn't mind. And then, like, I fall asleep, don't see a thing, and then on the next day, someone says, did you hear all that? Like, one thing, it was like all these trees came down in this one situation. So, you know, power suggestion, yeah, it's always possible, you know, but it's about collecting all of this data and not putting it together like some weird Nicolas Cage movie of conspiracy theories and strings on the wall, but actually saying, is there really any substance here? We have this discussion on the East Coast. There's a lot of places where it'd be like, a lot of snickering.
Oh, yeah.
You move into areas like the West Coast, and man, a large percentage are like, oh, yeah. My uncle and my aunt, they saw it on a camping trip.
Well, I've heard something weird. I know someone that saw something. Yeah.
Now, there's an interesting thing. So modern day people here, write it off like, no, we know they're out there. That's what Aboriginal cultures do. In fact, I heard one Native man actually say one time, and he says, you guys are just finally coming around on this, eh? Because for them, throughout culture, throughout hundreds of years,
Oh, yeah.
they're out there. And there used to be a connection to them.
Michael Limbacher claims to have a telepathic relationship with a group of what she calls the real people, and one particular Sasquatch she calls Guardian. She asked nothing of me. She wasn't some kind of obsessed Survivorman fan, but she felt I had a connection, psychically, to the Bigfoot in her area just behind her house. Now hang on. Telepathy? Psychic ability? Mind speak? Just what's going on here? I had visited months earlier, and though I saw and heard nothing, I definitely felt something unexplainable, for the moment. Michael often leaves gifts and gets different gifts in return. When I was here, I purposely left a gift of a feather at her gifting post without telling her, just to see what would happen.
I was going to say, what?
They made an H for us.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, if you lifted it or if they lifted.
Yeah, I changed it around.
I had stuck a fairly large feather sticking out here. And what had happened was this feather was gone, but another one had replaced it. Because I said that's not the feather I put in there. And there was a feather stuck in there. And then on top were 2 rocks and 2 purple flowers.
Sometimes they're like this. Which I take to mean they've passed by here. But the other one, this is what I left here. I left this time an A. And they brought the sticks. They weren't there, and then there were sticks there. So.
But do you ever, when you're walking in the forest, you see like sticks placed from the ground?
You know what?
Something?
I haven't even really looked for that, that much. But I really did pay attention to this.
Oh, wow. I remember it bigger,
but you can feel it.
It said it's in there solid. I couldn't do that. And the ground is not disturbed at all, around it. Like someone, if they dug a hole, it would be very hard to make it look that way again.
Oh yeah, that's in there. And like you said, perfectly in the middle of the path.
Yeah, and straight up and down.
Yeah.
I don't call myself a skeptic, but I'm not.
But we don't have a natural explanation for it.
Exactly.
And that's a big part of what I do is try to look at something like tree structures, for example.
Yeah.
When you see them, it's like, okay, let's count it out. Let's find out which was the first one. All right, then do it back from that. Could this one have fallen over because of wind? Could that happen because? But when you get to a point when you've got 3 or 4 or 6 and they're intertwined, it gets harder and harder to write it off to snow and wind.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
they definitely blocked me off from a path I was using, or if it was not me, they were blocking off, it was someone else with one of the broken tree things where the tree snapped off, and it was in this very small path. So one day I said, well, you guys, I'm going to move this, and I got off my horse to move it. I forgot to tell Mark there. Right where they blocked off from me going was an old piece of barbed wire that was, buried part in the ground and then up like that, and if my horse had caught that, it could have severed the tendons. I mean, it was just like, but they were like, no, don't go on this spot, because they did nothing when I went around it. But and it's it's not that far up there where that was. But
Right at this moment, Michael paused for just a few seconds. She was getting a telepathic message from the Sasquatch about our presence there and our intentions for the night in the bush, and she simply wanted to pass on the message. The he she refers to is the one she calls Guardian.
he said to remind you it's not magic, like this forest is not magic, but it has a lot of energy, so.
Does he have a recommendation on where we should go?
He's showing me exactly where you should go. I think you're going to know the spot, so I'm not going to say it. So let's see if we get the same feeling about the same spot.
Even scientists will discuss at length the viability of humans with the thought energy ability to telepathically communicate. Some would say we do it all the time without even knowing it. So why is it a stretch to consider something else on the planet with not only the ability, but perhaps the mastery of communicating telepathically?
I think because Michelle operates entirely on the telepathic level, she's even testing her own telepathic ability by saying, I don't want to tell you where I think you're supposed to go. Go, and let's see if it ties up later.
What intrigued me about Michael's story was just how much information she shared with me that seemed pragmatic, like the concept that Sasquatch are bothered by electromagnetic fields, making the deep wilderness their preferred habitat.
I think perhaps you open yourself up to certain opportunity by being remote and in natural areas and wilderness areas for a lot of obvious reasons. However, it's not necessary.
Yeah, the only thing I get out of it is there's less chance that it was someone else or some man-made noise.
Right.
Yeah, that's the main thing for me.
Less chance of being hoaxed if we're right out here.
We hiked the trails only a few miles from the nearest road, but deep enough to feel isolated. As the claims go, Bigfoot are bothered by our electromagnetic fields. It interrupts their own vibrational energy, and as they have apparently told Michael, none of this is magic. It's just science, maybe quantum physics, understanding the laws of the universe that we humans haven't quite figured out just yet. They can't build cars, fly, or compose symphonies, but that doesn't mean that they don't understand other things, or can't use as their main form of communication savant-like telepathic ability.
What we're doing right now, to me, is a lot more appropriate for trying to get some interaction happening with this phenomenon. In fact, a lot of people have said, you want a real good interaction, just act normal. Have kids, have a picnic, just be normal. If there's anything that's going to happen out here, it's not going to happen because of what we do. It's only going to happen because we're here. And it's by chance, or because we're lucky, or because we're putting out the right kind of energy, maybe even the right kind of thought energy, maybe even the right kind of emotional energy, whatever it takes to create an ambiance that allows for interaction to happen. So, I can leave the camera running, but basically for the next bunch of hours, we sit and we wait and we listen very carefully.
There's no quick fix to this mystery. The best mysteries of this world require that you put in the time.
All right, so this probably isn't the last shot that I'll take with this camera, but it's been thought that electrical signals are problematic. They interfere with Sasquatch and just their whole, their psyche, their physiology, everything that's going on. So Dev and I have agreed to turn everything off, including our cell phones. So there's no signals, nothing. It's just the two of us sitting here. And so I may be back, I may not be back, but look, I'll show you. There's Devin, see? There's the fire, there's Devin. Proof that we're just gonna sit here now and see what happens. And actually, all I'm hoping for at this moment is that the temperature will drop about 5 degrees so I can put my shirt back on because it's hot. All right, hang tight. We'll see you in a bit. Yeah, that's something that I haven't tried before is music. And a lot of people do utilize music, especially flutes and things like that. And it seems to make quite a big difference. Got my harmonica and guitar, and so while Devin just kind of hangs out and feeds the fire, I've just been playing a little bit. So.
If you're waiting for a big, hairy hand to come down upon my shoulder any second now, don't. For what's about to happen tonight will be a left turn to a place I never expected to go.
There. Hopefully they didn't notice the mistake I made. I'm going to shut you off again, and Devin and I are going to just continue to sit here and play a little bit more music and sit and listen. Let you know if something happens.
A lot would happen this night, more than I feel able to share just yet, as I'm still trying to put my finger on exactly what did go down in the late hours of the night. That said, we did experience a phenomenon I've only ever heard about, but now after years of long dark nights in the woods, I have my own story to tell.
This is a search. It's a journey into the unknown. And any amazing journey takes time, diligence, patience. And what happened last night was intriguing and interesting, and just a beginning. On about 4 separate occasions, both of us at the same time, without speaking it until we figured it out after, could feel, all I can say is, could feel a presence. Feelings aren't facts, but they are real at the same time. And the feelings were real. Hair on the back of the neck, that sort of thing. We both heard 2 individual solid footsteps, heavy. Could be anything, could be nothing. And perhaps the most significant, and especially for me, because I experienced this once before in a crazy way up on the top of a mountain, but this was different. This was more like what a lot of other people talk about. Yeah, this was looking out into the bush and seeing a couple of lights. Now, don't get me wrong here. We're not talking about bright flashlights. I've heard it described in so many ways, red glowing eyes that you can see, but that's not even what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about what some people describe as, wait for it, orbs. Now, I can't say that's what I saw. They didn't come close, but they were pretty close, like 30 feet. We're not talking like hundreds of yards away. We're talking 30 feet away. In one case, 15 feet away. 2 different, separate, glowing lights. And they were moving. So it wasn't just a simple reflection. They were moving. It's as if you look and there was a light here. And it sort of expanded a bit and got a little bit smaller. And then over here was a very small one. And we both saw it. Devin saw it first. We both saw it. We watched them. And Devin even attempted communication with it, because this is what has been reported. People able to communicate with orbs, the orbs actually responding to the communication, and more often than not, a Sasquatch encounter happens in a situation like that. So, what did we see? I haven't got a freaking clue what we saw. But I saw it. That part is fact. And we were wide awake, and everything was normal. So, we saw those 2 lights that after, I'm going to say a half an hour, 20 minutes, seemed to disappear. We saw a few other fleeting glimpses of the same thing. And this is not our eyes playing. I know that's what you're probably saying. Oh, your eyes are playing tricks on you. No, both of us are watching the same thing, describing it in the same way, in the same location, conferring with each other of what we're seeing. It's like if you're watching a wolf walk along a trail. You see the wolf? Yeah, I see it. Oh, it was no different. This whole thing is a journey into the unknown. These are just baby steps on my search for Sasquatch.
What I heard, felt, or experienced telepathically has to be expanded upon before I'm ready to tell you the whole story. So I'll go back out there. But as for the orbs, we'll think of this. For humans, we talk about out-of-body experiences. There are stories of astral projection abilities. Is it all bunk? Or was Edgar Cayce and so many others able to do what they claimed? And if that's true, then what if the phenomenon we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, can do it too?
I do have one other thing to say. For a presentation like this, and I'll repeat this often, in a circumstance like this, you're left with these four options. You've got a choice here. There's Devin waking up. Now, I've told you what we experienced last night. A couple of individual footsteps close by. 3 or 4 moments where both of us felt the same kind of presence, even like right within our bodies, just you could feel the presence. At the same time, individually, acknowledging it after the fact that, yeah, I feel that too. And then the 2 glowing points in the close distance in the forest. And again, I'm not here to say they were orbs or not orbs. I don't really know, because then it was 2, they were not as defined to be able to come to say this is what they were, but we both saw them clearly. And you've got the 4 choices. The first one is it all mistaken identity? Were the lights simply some sort of weird reflection from car lights or something like that? And are we both having the same mistaken identity at the same time? And that would include hoaxing. Is someone out there trying to hoax us? Number 2, we're both delusional. You got to decide, all right, well, Les and Devin are clearly delusional, caught up in their own delusions of the story of Sasquatch and Bigfoot and the legends. You know. Number 3, you have to decide, or are we liars? Are we lying about it all for the sake of making this presentation to you? Or are we simply telling you the experiences we had, stating clearly and concisely the facts of the moment of what went down? The choice is yours to make. You decide based on what I tell you about what Devin and I experienced. You decide whether or not we're delusional, mistaken, or whether we're lying, or whether we're simply telling you the truth of what went down.
This was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned that's real and unreal.
Back in 2014, I began work on a 10-part documentary series on the subject of Bigfoot. It took me places I did not expect to go, and it gave me a perspective I did not expect to have. Well, it's been 10 years, and a lot of questions still remain. Join me and help me to answer the litany of questions hanging over the phenomenon known as Bigfoot.
Walking up, I could see that there was something there. As I got closer, it stood up.
I know there's something there. I'm a lot more leery when I go out. I mean, really leery.
And I seen this humongous arm reach right in.
One of the dogs got killed, twisted, and torn in 2.
What the heck have I heard when I've been out in the wilderness on so many different occasions? When I want answers, I go after them. My new documentary film, The Question of Bigfoot, will attempt to answer all of the skeptics' burning questions. Why don't we see one on a trail cam? Where are the bones? Have they ever been hit by a car? Why haven't we captured one?
Is there enough room out there in the wilderness for them to exist? Are they real or are they not? I can't do this without you. So take a look at all of the rewards within this Kickstarter campaign and help me to produce the question of Bigfoot.